At the entrance of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Branch Association. Four masked figures gathered together, their eyes filled with coldness. The temperature around them was very low, devoid of any warmth that living beings should have, and a faint stench lingered around them. What was the outcome? The masked young man was the first to speak. We lay in wait by the main and side entrances of the other doors, but we didn't catch a whiff of that kid. Same here, I was in the auction, waiting for him like a hunter waiting for its prey, but there was no trace of him. Boss, what if those two are in cahoots? Were they already gone through the back door as soon as the auction ended? The masked young man pondered, it's highly possible. Originally, this cultivation technique was as good as ours. Suddenly, someone appeared to compete with us for it. It's hard not to suspect that they're working together. Boss, is this cultivation technique really that important? One of the subordinates asked in confusion. The masked young man cast a glance at him, speaking indifferently, it's normal that you don't know since you've just joined Blackwind Cave. 100 years ago, an Immortal Cultivation sect developed a mental technique targeting demons, capable of obstructing their psychic erosion on the human race. At that time, the demons suffered huge losses, and the humans gained the upper hand. Is it the same cultivation technique we're looking for? His subordinate asked. The masked young man nodded. Indeed, due to internal strife within the human race, that sect has now fallen into decay and become a ruin. Before invading, we in Blackwind Cave received information about this technique. In order to ensure the smooth progress of our plan, we must eliminate any unfavorable factors first. A fierce glint flashed in the masked young man's eyes. The plan of Blackwind Cave was originally aimed at Jianzhou, to further infiltrate the human race. But now that they had discovered the re-emergence of the insanity technique, it posed a great threat to them. They absolutely could not allow the current human race to discover the true purpose of the insanity technique, otherwise, their survival space would be further squeezed. In other words, if they couldn't get their hands on it, they would be forced to change their target and aim for other states and counties. Boss, look. There's a human woman over there. At this point, one of the men by his side pointed and shouted at the woman across the street. At the street corner, a woman with a cold and beautiful demeanor emerged, dressed in a green silk blouse and a plain white long skirt, her figure stunning. She scanned her surroundings, clearly looking for someone. Strange, I remember my husband mentioning that he would come to the auction to purchase some items. Could it already be over? The person who arrived was Yu Qinghan, who had followed all the way from the pawnshop. Due to her deep concern for Zhao Huai's safety, she hurriedly went after him, her mind only vaguely remembering the words auction and cultivation technique her husband had mentioned. She searched the vicinity of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association, but saw no one. A sense of dread crept into her heart, unwilling to witness the worst happening. A cold expression surfaced on Yu Qinghan's face. Whoever dared to harm her husband, she would make them pay in blood. Boss, what do you think? Isn't she beautiful? Not bad at all. If we made her into a new skin, I imagine the effect would be excellent, probably capturing a large number of men. The masked young man's eyes were filled with excitement. For a demon, choosing a good skin was an important task. A good skin could save them from a lot of unnecessary trouble. Excuse me, has the auction already ended? Yes, it ended half an hour ago, and everyone has already left. Yu Qinghan received the answer from the attendant at the entrance of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association. She continued to search the nearby streets, her phoenix eyes scanning the street corners, but still, there was no trace of Zhao Huai. Her anxiety grew more intense. Suddenly, she noticed 4 figures tailing her in the corner of her eye. Judging by their skills, they were no ordinary people. Yu Qinghan's eyebrows furrowed, her phoenix eyes narrowing, as anger surged within her. I didn't come for you, but you came for me? Yu Qinghan deliberately walked into a deserted alley before turning around and looking back coldly at the 4 masked men, saying, Are you the killers sent by the black market? Killers? The masked young man found her words somewhat baffling, subconsciously thinking that the woman had mistaken them for someone else. You might as well just think of us as killers. The masked young man gave a slight smile, his hand stretching out from under the bamboo hat. It was a pair of ugly, dark-boned claws. The surrounding subordinates also took on a combat stance, with excited looks on their faces. Hunting down such fair-skinned and tender-flesh woman was simply an overwhelmingly enjoyable task. Why Yuqinghan's pendant on her snow-white chest flickered slightly, and a sharp treasured sword appeared in her hand. It turns out she's a cultivator, no wonder she's so calm. The masked young man sneered when he saw this scene. Just a cheer-finding cultivator struggling in vain. Yuqinghan kept a cold face and did not speak. She stabbed out with her sword, its icy light flashing, as fast as lightning. Whoosh! In that instant, she directly chopped off the masked young man's head. The rest of the gang were all shocked. Yuqinghan appeared behind them and looked at the bloodless sword blade in her hand, frowning again. Die! A sharp cry came from the severed head of the masked young man. Clumps of black smoke burst out from the body, converging into the face of an evil pig demon, and pounced straight at Yuqinghan. Yuqinghan slashed with her sword, only to hear a ding sound. Then her body leaped up, flipping several meters away, widening the distance. Yuqinghan was not surprised, on the contrary, she sneered. I wondered where the stench came from, turns out it's 4 pig demons. The faces of the 4 changed in an instant. Underneath the masks covering their mouths and noses were rows of densely packed tusks, red mouths, and extremely terrifying pig noses which were very obvious. After shedding their human skin, they were clearly 4 extremely ugly demons. Kill her, our identities have been exposed. The swollen-faced pig demon leading them said in a deep voice. Roar! Amid the low growls, 3 gusts of demonic wind suddenly swept through. Yuqinghan's expression remained calm, as she lightly touched the jade pendant on her chest and said faintly, well, it's just a warm-up then. The pendant flickered, and a long halberd with a frosty and pointy tip appeared in her hand. Ding! She gripped the long halberd tightly and stabbed it into the ground, making a loud noise. Boom! Immediately afterward, a surging killing intent emanated from Yuqinghan's body. This aura was incredibly fierce, directly sending the gathering demonic wind back. The swollen-faced pig demon fell to the ground with a thud, and exclaimed in shock, is this a magical weapon? As far as he knew, magical weapons were rare among the human race, not something ordinary cheer-finding cultivators could possess. If one did have it, it indicated that the cultivator's strength was definitely very strong. Undoubtedly, they had run into a formidable opponent this time. Before the 4 demons could react, Yuqinghan had already vanished from her original spot, halberd in hand. Boom! As the halberd swept by, it carried explosive true chi, and with the power of the magical weapon, shattered the green slate stone in the surroundings. The swollen-faced pig demon was completely wiped out by the magical weapon. As Yuqinghan coldly glanced at the trembling bodies of the other 3 demons, her demeanor did not change. Please spare. Before they could finish pleading, Yuqinghan snapped their heads, killing them on the spot. After settling the situation at hand, Yuqinghan retracted her long halberd. However, her mood did not improve, as these were just some minor, insignificant demons. Killing them meant nothing. Her goal was to find Zhao Huai, but there were no clues at the moment. Madam? Yuqinghan walked home with an anxious heart, as a familiar voice suddenly came to her ears. She turned her head and saw Zhao Huai holding a bag of vegetables, looking shocked. Husband? Madam, why did you come out? Zhao Huai saw that Yuqinghan was walking alone on the street looking unhappy, and he couldn't help but feel curious. When Yuqinghan saw that Zhao Huai was unharmed, she felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her heart, and the stone in her heart finally fell. But when faced with her husband's doubts, she hesitated for a moment. She had a muddled mind because she hadn't figured out what to say yet. She couldn't just laugh and say, I was afraid you'd be killed by an assassin, so I came out and killed 4 demons while I was at it, could she? That would sound far too terrifying. And it would provoke her husband's extra attention and questioning. Where did the assassin come from? Why was there an assassin? Didn't you cut ties with your family? After all, she had promised before her wedding that their normal life together would not be threatened, and no one would disturb them. Revealing the truth now would be like slapping her own face, wouldn't it? Seeing that it was getting late, Yu Qinghan, in a hurry, came up with a bright idea and laughed. I saw that it was almost dusk, and I thought of going out to buy some vegetables, but I didn't expect to run into my husband. Zhao Huai lifted the basket of vegetables in his hand, shook it, and smiled. No need, I've already bought them. The auction ended early today, so I came back quite quickly. That's why I went to the market and bought the vegetables. After he had sent Li Yanqing back home and explained some matters regarding accepting a disciple, he made a trip to the fair, otherwise, it would have been difficult to explain his whereabouts. Yu Qinghan glanced at the fruits and vegetables in Zhao Huai's hands, which were filled to the brim, and gave him a faint smile. You bought so much? Yes, I bought a lot of beef and mutton, as well as enough for the next few days. After all, we have a cellar at home to store them in, so they won't spoil. Zhao Huai grinned. Did my husband have a smooth day today? Did anything bothersome happen? Yu Qinghan saw that her husband was fine, her heart naturally felt happy. However, her words still subtly asked if any issues had come up. Facing the inquiry, the images of the two assassins, one fat and one thin, subconsciously flashed in Zhao Huai's mind. He didn't even know their names until he killed them. If he were to tell Yu Qinghan about the two assassins, it would undoubtedly be unwise because it would be hard to explain their whereabouts. Back when they met, hiding his cultivation was a form of protection. Now that they have been together for some time, it's difficult to admit the truth. He would pick a better time in the future. Nothing went wrong. I got a great harvest, especially a bottle of body refining pills. You know, I've been practicing martial arts for a while but haven't had any breakthroughs. However, these pills seem to be quite effective, making my body stronger. Zhao Huai made up a story about an auction harvest, which also explained his reason for going to the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association. Li Qinghan listened, nodded slightly, and seriously advised. Pills are ultimately a low-end method. To become strong by self-cultivation, one must rely on oneself. Zhao Huai smiled bitterly. I'm not as gifted as you, madam, and can only rely on external help. My talent is really not enough. The truth was, what he said was also accurate. His original body was that of a playboy prince who indulged in pleasure and played hide-and-seek with palace maids all day long. Even at his age, he had yet to practice martial arts. Looking at it from another perspective, his aptitude was not only poor, but he was also lazy, unwilling to work hard or practice. As a result, when he first arrived, he was just an ordinary person. This extremely poor aptitude even affected him. Zhao Huai had been stuck at the 9th stage of refining qi for some time, unable to break through to the initiation stage. From a certain perspective, wasn't this a manifestation of his limited potential? Having the destiny of a diligent reader, it was true that his cultivation speed was fast. However, with his bottleneck still present, he remained stuck in place. My husband should not think of himself as worthless. Yu Qinghan heard Zhao Huai's self-mockery, pursed her red lips, and grabbed his hand in disbelief, carefully feeling it. She had not paid attention to her husband's talent issue before. Now, she could take a closer look. Seeing this development, Zhao Huai's eyelids twitched. Fortunately, he had the destiny of posing as pig-eating tiger to cover up. No one could see his true cultivation. Otherwise, if his secret were discovered, it would be difficult to explain. Yu Qinghan carefully felt Zhao Huai's muscles and bones and the meridians within his body, as still as water. His body was indeed like stagnant water. Yu Qinghan was puzzled. It shouldn't be like this. My husband's meridians are very broad, and his body is excellent, it's just that his spiritual root is lacking. So how could he not become powerful? It might just be a lack of talent, Zhao Huai laughed. Before obtaining his destiny, his meridians and body were never as good as she said. It should be the wrong method, Yu Qinghan pondered. Teaching Zhao Huai the basics of cultivation was a top priority in her eyes. Let's go home first. It's already dark, Zhao Huai urged, looking at the sky. Yu Qinghan snapped out of her thoughts, took the basket of vegetables from Zhao Huai, and spoke softly. Yes, let's go home. The next moment, Zhao Huai held her other hand, and Yu Qinghan's fair face immediately lit up with a sweet smile. Today, I will let you taste my culinary skills. You can't eat anything quite like it outside. Really? Of course, although it can't compare to Madame's cooking, it's special in its novelty. The palms of their hands joined together as they talked and laughed, walking towards the end of the East Street, with the dim yellow lanterns adding a touch of warmth. At dusk, cooking smoke rose from the chimneys, and the windows of every household were bright. Although the nights in Jianzhou were pitch black, they were not desolate. Huai's pawnshop. Yu Qinghan looked at the figure of the man who was constantly busy in the kitchen and couldn't help but smile. My princess, don't you think it's strange? A voice came from the shadows nearby. What's wrong? The assassins sent by the black market vanished into thin air like they had disappeared. They should have arrived in Jianzhou a long time ago. Yu Qinghan replied indifferently, what are you trying to say? The shadowy figure of the female servant paused for a moment before speaking. Is it possible that young Master Zhao killed them? He's actually a top-notch expert, lurking by your side to gain your trust and then seize control of the military. Yu Qinghan shook her head, that's impossible. I've checked, my husband is just an ordinary person. I even felt his muscles and bones myself. Your imagination is too rich. Also, I have no more ties with the military, don't come looking for me unless there's something important. The female servant in the shadows retorted, perhaps, my princess, you were not able to see through his true cultivation. Tomorrow, I will ask Elder Yu to come and test him personally. Do as you wish. Yu Qinghan got up impatiently, intending to help in the kitchen. The shadowy figure of the female servant watched the couple's receding backs, sighed, and then vanished from the spot. Another early morning. The rooster crows, fog ascends, and a long line had started to form at the street corner's pancake shop owned by an old lady. It's another beautiful morning. Zhao Huai got up from the bed, yawned, and stretched lazily. Then he glanced at the snow-white jade-like back next to him, accompanied by a faint sound of breathing. He couldn't help but chuckle lightly, they must have had an intensive discussion late into the night, she must be so exhausted. Zhao Huai got dressed, freshened up, opened the door of the pawnshop, flipped the sign to open for business, bought breakfast at the street corner, 2 meat buns and 1 egg, and prepared 1 portion for the madam as well. Then he left home. There were quite a few things that needed to be done today. Brother Yan, I'm here to visit you. Yan Jing, known as Sai Yan Wang, came out of the dispensary with a smile holding a piece of medicinal herb. Oh, it's Brother Zhao. It's pretty rare for a married man to take a trip like this, what brings you here? Stop it with the banter. Our relationship is not like that. Zhao Huai, showing a disdain expression, refuted. Speak up, what favor do you need this time? You're always up to no good unless you're up to no good, don't you think I already know you well? Yan Jing laughed and scolded, he understood Zhao Huai very well. Help me look at this, what kind of medicine is in this porcelain bottle? Zhao Huai took out a porcelain bottle from Black Ring. It was one of the items produced at the same time as the parchment roll and the unidentified treasured sword. After cultivating the parchment roll, they found out it was the 3000 Thunderbolt technique. Only after using the unidentified sword did they realize it was a magical weapon. So, he had a feeling that the medicine in the bottle wouldn't be simple. So, very early in the morning, he brought it over for evaluation. While Jianzhou indeed has many varied pill shops, he didn't fully trust them. There are too many scandals now about unethical alchemists practicing fake medicine, shortchanging on the amount, and withholding medicinal herbs. As for Yan Jing, besides being a doctor, he was also a genuine professional alchemist, leading a group of 8, holding multiple positions. Even if he couldn't concoct any precious pills, he still recognized most of them. A professional is always better than an amateur. To Zhao Huai, pills all look similar, just like a brown mud ball. Yan Jing took the porcelain bottle, opened the plug, gently waved it in his hand, took a sniff, and immediately furrowed his brows. Please wait a moment. Then he went into the dispensary and researched in silence. While waiting, Zhao Huai wasn't idle either. He took out a glittering jade slip from the black ring and started to study it. This was the insanity technique that he competed for in yesterday's auction with the 4 masked men. Although in the end he didn't figure out where the 4 demons had gone, the cultivation technique was in his hands. Why should he care about a few little demons who dare not blatantly cause trouble in the human world? Inputting true chi into the jade slip, line after line of tadpole-like small characters appeared. Firstly, the densely packed text was very discouraging. Then there was the content, which was very obscure and difficult for ordinary people to understand. But Zhao Huai was different. The destiny of the heavenly heart wisdom eyes quietly activated, as if a gleam of light appeared in his eyes, letting him see through the obscure text in front of him. Instead of saying it's heavenly heart wisdom eyes, it's more like speed reading with quantum efficiency. In just a while of reading, Zhao Huai had already got a rough idea of the theory and function of the insanity technique. This insanity technique is a spiritual power cultivation technique that integrates attack and defense. Beginners can form a self-protecting barrier in the mind, and experienced practitioners can intimidate all external enemies from outside with spiritual power. When practiced to a great level, it can form terrifying coercion. Using the word insanity to describe it, it can be said to be very apt. As for why this cultivation technique attracted the attention of the demons, Zhao Huai was unsure. In an instant, Zhao Huai began to attempt to construct a reliable spiritual barrier in his mind. This can prevent enemies from directly invading the brain and attack his mind. It wasn't as difficult as imagined, and Zhao Huai accomplished the first step very quickly. The second step is to release his powerful spiritual power outward, forming a big net to attack, but Zhao Huai was still lacking in terms of spiritual power strength. He estimated that if he could break through to the initiation stage, it would be very easy to accomplish. Brother Zhao, be honest, where did you get this medicine from? After some time, Yan Jing's voice finally rang out from the pharmacy. However, Yan Jing's expression seemed somewhat unusual, extremely solemn. Bought from the pawnshop, just trying my luck, what's wrong? Seeing his expression, Zhao Huai's heart skipped a beat, thinking, it's not some nasty poison, is it? You've hit the jackpot. Yan Jing finally revealed a brilliant smile. Don't scare me like that. Zhao Huai finally breathed a sigh of relief and quickly asked, what kind of medicine is inside? Yan Jing smiled slightly, all good stuff, this porcelain bottle is filled with various kinds of pills, come have a look. He poured out the pills and began to explain one by one. This fragrant, large pill is called a vigor-gathering pill. It can improve the true vigor in the body of a cultivator in the initiation stage, greatly enhancing magic power. Upon hearing this, Zhao Huai frowned, saying, but I haven't initiated yet, so it's of little use to me for now. Don't be hasty. Yan Jing chuckled, pouring out the second golden pill, which was crystal clear and translucent. It seemed to be wrapped in a layer of fog, appearing quite extraordinary. What is this? Zhao Huai couldn't resist asking. Yan Jing's eyes sparkled, he said word by word. Initiation pill. Initiation pill? Zhao Huai suddenly brightened up. He then directly grasped the golden pill in front of him, held it in his palm, and examined it closely. As everyone knows, once you have an initiation pill, you can break through to the initiation realm smoothly. However, the initiation pill is priceless, regardless of how much money you have, you can't buy it. Initiation pill, made from 31 precious spiritual grass and medicinal herbs like jade marrow mushroom, purple monkey flower, and heavenly spirit fruit. Only some official grade immortal cultivation sects and senior alchemists can refine it. But there is an iron law within the immortal cultivation sects, which is to absolutely not interfere in mortal world matters, so the initiation pill is hard to circulate. Every time one came out, it would be madly snatched by the world. After all, having a powerful cultivator in the initiation stage is a quantum leap for any aristocratic family. It's actually initiation pill, this trade is indeed worth it. Zhao Huai said with a smile all over his face. He felt that just one initiation pill alone was worth more than all the others combined. It's not over yet. Yan Jing faintly laughed, and then he took out other pills one after another. The big rejuvenation pill, a panacea that works wonders for both internal and external injuries. No matter how serious the internal and external injuries are, if you take this pill, it can greatly ease the injuries and save lives, even if it can't bring the dead back to life and fully recover instantly. Qi and blood pill can replenish a large amount of qi and blood force. It is usually taken immediately after a blood essence fighting battle. Detoxifying pill can neutralize hundreds of poisons. Regular poison, just a sip of water mixed with the pill, can cure the disease. Taking it directly, any strong poison can be neutralized. Mind pacified pill, after taking it, it can get rid of the distractions in your mind and achieve unity of mind and spirit. It is usually taken before retreating. After introducing them all, Yan Jing put all the pills back into the porcelain bottle, threw it to Zhao Huai, and said leisurely, "There are roughly these many kinds, there is also a scarlet pill I can't identify. You can research it slowly in the future." Zhao Huai, holding the pills, couldn't stop smiling. This was a real fortune, full of pills. In the short term, there was basically no need to worry about the problem of pills. Seeing Zhao Huai's expression, Yan Jing curled his lips and teased. "How many initiation stage cultivators did you rob? No normal person would sell you so many precious pills unless they were a fool." "Well, isn't it a fool after all?" Zhao Huai smiled slightly and didn't say more. "Clear the way. Clear the way. Don't block the way." At this time, a shouting voice from outside the clinic as well as the squeaky sound of wheel rolling attracted the attention of both of them. Zhao Huai looked closely. It was a full caravan passing by. The wooden cart was packed tightly, not allowing any gaps. Around the caravan, there were many bodyguards protecting it. Judging from their eyes, each of them was stern and their weapons and equipment were very sophisticated, obviously not ordinary people. Zhao Huai wondered, this caravan looks quite odd. What are they escorting that can't be seen by people? This setup, it looks familiar. Could it be them? Yan Jing, standing aside, could not help but smile as he watched the wooden carts passing in front of him. You know them? Zhao Huai turned his head, with a puzzled look on his face. Do you remember what I said to you on the day of your wedding? Yan Jing gave a faint smile. Zhao Huai pondered carefully but shook his head, don't remember. Yan Jing was not annoyed, apparently knowing that this was just the kind of behavior the other person had. So he repeated the words spoken on the day of the wedding. A week ago, I received news from Yanqing that a cunning rich merchant secretly transported a cartload of stolen goods. He sought out many pawnshops, but nobody dared to buy. It was quite mysterious. No one knows what's inside. At that time I said if this deal is successful, you wouldn't need to work for half a year. Upon hearing this, Zhao Huai remembered and could not help but question, how did you know that the cunning merchant was transporting stolen goods? Yan Jing smiled without saying a word, of course, I heard it from a merchant friend of mine. This caravan headed south and found almost no buyers. Perhaps he's here to find you. After listening, Zhao Huai chuckled lightly, the other pawnshops dare not accept the goods, yet you assume I can manage? Yan Jing's lips curled into a mysterious grin, a look that was neither a smile nor a frown. You young man, pretending to be poor on the surface, even though the pawnshop seems shabby, you have a keen eye for good stuff. You have collected lots of valuable items and sold everything on the black market, reaping handsome profits over the years. How else do you think you made your fortune? Zhao Huai simply smiled without saying a word. Because what Yan Jing said was true. The reason he opened a pawnshop instead of a brothel, a tavern, or a boxing club had its reasons. First and foremost, his ability to mint gold and bronze coins had not only the function of fortune-telling, but it could also be used to make money. A deal is done when the money and goods exchanged hands. After running a pawnshop for 3 years, Zhao Huai has naturally set his own basic rules for doing business. Good stuff, keep it. Bad stuff, don't touch it. It's a rule he's always abided by. Simply by using his gold and bronze coins, he could tell whether each item is worth buying or not. The biggest taboo for pawnshop owners is to encounter something that brings loss, where the goods cannot be sold, and would only drain the capital, resulting in the possible collapse of the shop. There's also the risk of getting involved with forbidden items, which can lead to government's shutdown or even annihilation by unknown forces. Zhao Huai had heard about an incident where a sizable leading pawnshop, with over a dozen branches, collapsed overnight after impulsively buying an exotic treasure. Tragically, the entire staff was killed on the second day. It turned out only later that the item was a soul tool crafted by a devil cultivator, designed to silently harvest human lives. The horror was unimaginable. There were too many unexpected incidents, like purchasing from grave robbers, consequently being held accountable by the imperial court, or selling inherited jade, only to be immediately stolen by thieves. But with the gold and bronze coins, Zhao Huai had nothing to worry about and he could run his business with confidence. Not only did his shop not collapse, but it also grew stronger and bigger. He dares to say that if there was anything he, the owner of the largest pawnshop in Jianzhou, couldn't handle, then nobody else could. Alright, if there's nothing else, I'll get going. Having achieved his purpose, Zhao Huai decided not to stay in the hospital any longer. He bid farewell to Yan Jing and was about to return to his pawnshop. Don't forget to invite me for a drink when you break through the bottleneck. Yan Jing cursed jokingly at his back. Zhao Huai did not turn back, but waved his hand in understanding. Will do next time. At that time on the streets. In front of a carriage wrapped tightly with wood, there was an incredibly luxurious bejeweled carriage. In the carriage, a man in his 40s was sitting on a renowned embroidered cushion. This man had rosy cheeks, prominent shiny forehead, and sparkling eyes. One look at him, and you'd know he was cunning and ruthless. And he was the owner of this batch of wooden carts. Master Huang, are you really going to sell all these things? A middle-aged man dressed like a guard, with a sword in his hand, couldn't help but ask. What? Any problem? Master Huang looked up indifferently and asked leisurely. We previously agreed that these artifacts should be sold quickly and cleanly, either selling all or not selling any at all. You're currently trying to sell them in a cartful way while mixing real with fake. I'm afraid it might backfire. The guard warned earnestly. Do you know how to run a business or do I? Master Huang asked indifferently. Of course, it's Master Huang who knows, but these things are rightly mine. The guard chuckled awkwardly, explaining his point. Master Huang laughed coldly. Even then, I bought them from you, including you yourself. If it weren't for me saving you, you'd have starved to death. And with your current stature, would your previous military status allow you to find such a decent job? The guard sighed helplessly. Even so, all these are artifacts from the previous dynasty. There are few buyers in the first place, and many pawnshops on the road have already refused. You don't need to worry about that, I have my ways. Master Huang's lips curled into a strange smile, possibly scheming something. The guard looked at the bustling streets passing by the carriage window and was lost in thought. Time flies, and 3 years have passed in a blink of an eye. Who would have thought that the once ruined walls and ruins have all been rebuilt to be so beautiful now? He was once an ordinary soldier of the Yan Dynasty. He had fought valiantly on the battlefield and was promoted due to his accumulated merits and won the appreciation of his superiors. He was even appointed as a martial officer guarding the imperial palace. He thought that he'd be able to enjoy the rest of his life, but just a few years later, he heard the ill rumors of the impending fall of the Yan Dynasty, and rebellions broke out like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. The main forces of Yan were retreating while the rebel army was heading straight towards the capital. He was then ordered to defend the city. However, while he was fighting at the city gate of the capital defending it day and night, someone suddenly shouted that the emperor had surrendered and those who knelt would be spared. His efforts went in vain. That day, armies from outside the city swarmed in. In his madness, he ran towards the imperial palace. His mind was filled with confusion, only one sentence echoed in his mind. I was ready to fight to the death, so why did your majesty surrender first? Everything happened too quickly. By the time he reached the imperial palace, there was news that the emperor was dead. His mind was sent into a spin, and his thoughts took a sharp turn. I must survive. So he mingled with the rebel army, entered the imperial palace to loot. All sorts of items were taken away in the hope of living a better life in the chaotic times. Who would have thought that these possessions would instead become his burden, unsellable and too precious to throw away? After escaping from the capital, he became destitute and lived on other people's mercy. Even many years later, looking back at these wild memories, he still feels an inexplicable heartache. We're here, sir. This is a pawnshop in Jianzhou, known as Huai's pawnshop. Master Huang responded lightly, and then slowly descended from the carriage. In the busy streets, various shops and roadside stalls bustled with noise and the shouting of vendors as people came and went continuously. Pancakes. Freshly made pancakes. Tofu. Tofu. Just freshly ground. Fortune telling. Our ancestral divination skill, just 10 copper coins each time. If it's not accurate, it's free. Zhao Huai was passing by, leisurely strolling in the direction of the pawnshop, tossing copper coins in his hand. Today's luck was pretty good, full of blessings, but there hasn't been any life-changing events yet. Truly contradictory. Suddenly, Zhao Huai was stopped by an old man at a roadside stall. The old man was wearing a hemp-brown long shirt, his facial wrinkles piled up, and his hair was visibly graying. He kept muttering as he spoke. Ancestral divination. Young sir, won't you calculate your destiny? It's such a shame if you don't. Zhao Huai quietly shook off the man's hand and expressionlessly said, My destiny is very good, no need to calculate, thank you. After saying that, he tried to leave but was stopped again. The fortune-telling old man had a teaching expression. Young man, I've seen too many people like you. Young and frivolous, relying on a bit of strength, becoming ignorant and arrogant. You don't know how many calamities are waiting behind you. Zhao Huai was directly amused by his serious appearance. With gold and bronze coins on hand, did he still need him to calculate? It'd be better not to be misled by him. Zhao Huai sneered immediately, Fine, I'll let you calculate, but if you're not accurate, you'll give me 100 taels of silver. The fortune-telling old man hesitated for a moment, speechlessly said, Young man, are you trying to rob me for money? What, are you afraid? Will you still calculate or not? Zhao Huai smiled faintly. The fortune-telling old man regained his composure and laughed, Fine, if my words are not accurate at all, what harm is there in giving you 100 taels of silver? Zhao Huai decided on the spot that if there was any discrepancy in what the other party said, he would firmly deny it. It was time to teach these swindlers a lesson. Ancestral divination. My reputation as Iron Mouth Pan Fugui is not baseless. The fortune-telling old man said proudly. Would you like to read your palm or measure your words? Palm reading. Zhao Huai directly extended his hand. The fortune-telling old man grabbed his hand, squinted his eyes, and examined the lines carefully. After a long while, the fortune-telling old man couldn't help but frown. Seeing this, Zhao Huai playfully smiled, Can't you see? Unexpectedly, the fortune-telling old man shook his head and smiled, No, this old man has roughly figured it out. Really? Zhao Huai was suspicious. Of course. The fortune-telling old man was very confident. Based on my observations, young master's palm lines indicate yin and yang, happiness overflowing from the heavens. You should have just gotten married a few days ago. Hearing this, Zhao Huai was slightly taken aback and then frowned, asking. What else? The fortune-telling old man laughed, looking at the young master's face, Happiness is overflowing. Madam is certainly very beautiful, and the two of you are deeply in love. Are you spying on me? Zhao Huai said indifferently. These things were known to anyone who knew him and paid a little attention. This old man certainly did not. The fortune-telling old man shook his head and continued, Since the young master doesn't believe it, then I'll talk about your fortunes. Just now, I was wondering. Young master's fortune is indeed a noble one, and by rights his fortune should have fallen apart 3 years ago and become completely destitute. Now, however, his fate has been brought back from the dead, bringing with it a glimmer of hope. It's quite strange. But one thing is for sure, young master will soar to the heavens in the next few years. The fortune-teller's tone seemed filled with a mix of lament and sigh. If the information just now could have been created by someone else, the things he heard now were somewhat weird. That's because his trajectory was exactly as the old man described. His fortunes plummeted after the collapse of Yen country and only slightly improved upon the appearance of lucky strike. Jiao Huai believed it somewhat but didn't dare to trust it fully, so he said in a flat tone. Please. The fortune-telling old man smiled and took out a box of wooden sticks, handing it over and explaining. Young master, if you want to ask or know something, just silently think of the question and then shake the wooden sticks. You'll receive guidance from the heavens. Heavenly guidance? If there really was guidance from the heavens, then send him back to his original world as soon as possible. Although Zhao Huai thought this way in his heart, if there really was such an opportunity, he wouldn't choose it. As of now, he was living more carefree than before. Today, he finally decided to pray. Although he didn't believe in ghosts and gods, after coming to this world, he had no choice but to be half-believing and half-doubting. Rather than asking about his own goals, it's better to ask how to achieve immortal method. After thinking it through, Zhao Huai shook the stick. Click. A wooden stick landed softly on the ground. Zhao Huai picked up the stick and looked at the words, "For that which my heart desires and cherishes, though I die 9 times, I would not regret it." The fortune-telling old man glanced at the words and smiled. These are the words of the ancient sage, Chu Zi, telling us that as long as our hearts pursue and identify with something, even if we die, we should not regret it. If we persist in doing it, we will achieve it. An immortal path without regrets. Zhao Huai seemed to understand a bit. The fortune-telling old man packed up the wooden stick, teaching earnestly, heavenly fate can change according to human affairs. Heaven is simply giving us a warning. With changes comes the ability to transform. If we can do our best, even a bad fortune won't be bad. Young master, do you think my calculation is accurate? Zhao Huai pondered for a long time, smiled slightly, and did not answer. Instead, he took out 10 copper coins from his waist and threw them to the old man. Thank you. After that, he turned and left. The fortune-telling old man held the 10 copper coins, watching Zhao Huai's departing figure, and smiled playfully. Elder Yu, does he really have no cultivation? At this time, a female hawker selling sugar-coated haws at a roadside stall nearby slowly approached the old man and asked quietly. Indeed he doesn't. The fortune-telling old man shook his head. I checked his root and bone, examined his pubic region, and he is indeed an ordinary person. The female hawker nodded and then asked, So, are all your divinations about him true? Half true, half false, I guess. Which part is true, and which part is false? The fortune-telling old man smiled faintly. The part about Qing Han is obviously true. As for the rest, the heavenly fate must not be revealed. The female hawker sighed. I have been raised by my princess since I was a child, following her all the way up north, conquering cities and winning battles. She is my idol in my heart. But now, where is the senior general who used to be so heroic and peerless in her silver armor and long halberd? Now that King Qin's people already occupy half of the court and the commonalty, what should we do? The fortune-teller said calmly, Perhaps, this is the real her. This old man accompanying the princess for many years, strategizing for years, has long known that this day would come. An ordinary life is not necessarily bad. Moreover, the husband she married may not be ordinary after all. Is this fortune-teller really so mystical, or was it just a lucky guess? Zhao Huai walked away, thinking that something didn't feel right. He knew about the tricks these fortune-tellers used, which usually involved observing people's faces and having a basic understanding of psychology to con people. Different people had different scripts, and they would get a few predictions right just by chance, all at no cost. However, the old man he met was indeed quite skilled, managing to predict his fate so accurately, either by mysticism or just a lucky guess. After walking for a while, Zhao Huai returned to the pawnshop. However, he noticed a fancy bejeweled carriage parked in front of Huai's pawnshop, with a long line of wooden carts behind it, surrounded by numerous bodyguards. This was the mysterious merchant team he had seen before. They really came? Yan Jing had predicted earlier that the cunning merchant would come to find him, and Zhao Huai had prepared himself mentally. He strode into the pawnshop and overheard a conversation. "Madam, believe me, this night luminous pearl is truly a priceless treasure, with an incredibly long history and high collection value. If you don't buy it, you'll surely regret it." "Really?" "Of course it's true. It also has practical use. It can emit dazzling light in the dark, far superior to inferior spiritual stones." The person sitting across from Yu Qinghan was none other than Master Huang. This man wore brocade clothes and a jade belt, had a robust body, sharp eyes, and appeared to be the cunning merchant. Zhao Huai thought to himself. "Ahem, so we have guests." Zhao Huai coughed lightly, interrupting the two to make his presence known. "Husband, you're back." When Yu Qinghan saw the person at the door, she smiled and joyfully called out. She had woken up in a daze earlier this morning to find her husband gone and only a cup of steaming hot sheep's milk left on the table. She had barely finished washing up when customers arrived at the pawnshop, so she had to receive them temporarily. "Husband, you should talk to him. I don't understand these things. I'll go prepare the ingredients for lunch." Yu Qinghan gently stood up, giving up her seat. This merchant bombarded her with introductions about a variety of treasures, jewels, and antiques, which she didn't understand at all. It seemed that the professional matters should still be left to her husband. "All right, leave it to me." Zhao Huai stepped forward resolutely and sat down, examining the merchant for a moment before saying with a faint smile. "This guest has a kind face and the bodyguards outside are quite tall and strong. You must be from a merchant team from the north." Master Huang, seeing the woman leave and a handsome man taking her place, knew that this person must be the shopkeeper who was more difficult to deal with than the woman. His smile on his face remained unchanged. "Shopkeeper, you have a keen eye. We came from the capital city, heading south just for business. Allow me to introduce myself. My surname is Huang. I am the fourth child in my family, and people call me fourth brother. I have traveled across the north and south for many years and have a modest reputation in the Two River regions. With the appreciation of my peers, I have earned the title of Master Huang." "So, it's Master Huang, what a pleasure to meet you." Zhao Huai smiled faintly, but his heart was completely unruffled. Normally, when people introduced themselves, they wouldn't reveal so much personal information. The more information revealed, the more they wanted to give their counterpart a sense of security. This was a trick commonly used by merchants. Master Huang smiled and said, "Shopkeeper, let me get straight to the point. I've already discussed this night luminous pearl with the madam. What do you think?" Hearing this, Zhao Huai picked up the night luminous pearl and carefully examined it. The night luminous pearl was about the size of a fist, with a jade-like body and clear patterns. Even in the daytime, it emitted a faint glow. At night, its glow would surely be even brighter. However, Yan Jing had alluded to him before that this man was a cunning merchant, so how could Zhao Huai not be on guard? Underneath the table, he flipped the golden bronze coin in the palm of his hand. Soon, lines of characters appeared before him. "Misfortune and fortune depend on each other, just observe this for now. Hexagram 1, timely rain at the pawnshop, sending money to a young child. This is a luminous stone. Buy it, and the instruction you'll get is misfortune. Clue, a bead made of phosphorus stone is far different from a real night luminous pearl. Hexagram 2, discerning all matters, seeing everything clearly at a glance. Refuse this night luminous pearl, and the instruction you'll get is fortune. Clue, deceitful merchant, refuse him directly, and there might be other gains." Upon reading, Zhao Huai smiles to himself. A deceitful merchant is always deceitful and can't change his bad habits, coming up with such a big scam right away. Zhao Wei, who had received 9 years of compulsory education in his past life, naturally knew what phosphorus stone was. Phosphorus stone is an extremely common mineral that oxidizes when exposed to air, emitting a faint light. Pure phosphorus stone can emit dazzling white light in the dark. On the market, the real night luminous pearls are mostly made of adamas, with a value equivalent to large modern diamonds. Certain unscrupulous merchants sell pure phosphorus stones as night luminous pearls to wealthy, vain nobles. If they are not experts, it is difficult to see the difference, but with time, the verdict is clear. A real night luminous pearl can last for 100 years without deterioration, remains extremely stable, and has excellent lighting effects. While a phosphorus stone-made night luminous pearl may not seem any different for a short time, as its use continues, the bead becomes smaller and smaller, then disappears completely. Unscrupulous merchants take advantage of this to perpetrate fraud, knowing by the time the bead is gone, you can't find them anymore. How is it? Master Huang, squinting his eyes in amusement, watches as Zhao Huai examines the night luminous pearl for a long time. His impatience grows, and he can't help but urge Zhao Huai. Master Huang, isn't this bead you're selling a bit too perfect? Zhao Huai puts the bead back. His eyes with a smile look firm and unfathomable. Master Huang's smile remains, as he taps the table lightly with his hand. Yes, a night luminous pearl is that perfect. If you buy it, it's sure to be the treasure of the shop. Zhao Huai's mouth curls into a smile and says, Master Huang, you're truly a master of feigning ignorance. Shopkeeper, what do you mean by that? Zhao Huai says indifferently, enough, don't pretend. Just say what you want to sell. I don't have time to go round and round with you. If you have nothing good, please see the guest off. The tone gradually becomes impatient, with a clear intention of dismissing the guest. Upon hearing this, Master Huang laughs instead, his mouth curling up at the corner and his eyes revealing his interest. He pauses for a few seconds before laughing out loud. Ha ha ha. A straight talker doesn't resort to insinuations. Shopkeeper, you're a keen observer, not like those mediocrities. So I won't beat around the bush. Shopkeeper, please come with me. I promise you won't be disappointed. Master Huang stands up directly and walks outside the house. Zhao Huai does not hesitate, and directly follows. Once outside, the burly bodyguards gather around, keeping Huang securely inside their formation. Zhao Huai takes a slight glance, feeling the fluctuations of their true qi. Their cultivation is apparent to see. Most of the bodyguards have power at the first stage of refining qi, while the leader is at the third stage of refining qi. However, a middle-aged man carrying a sword nearby has cultivated to the fourth stage of refining qi, making him the strongest there. What does Master Huang want to show me? Zhao Huai, unflustered by the bodyguard's stares, remains expressionless. Master Huang smiles without answering. He lifts a coarse cloth covering a wooden cart and lets Zhao Huai see for himself. Seeing the contents of the wooden cart, Zhao Huai's pupils shrink slightly. He looks seriously at Master Huang and questions, where did you get these things from? In front of Zhao Huai was a large sandalwood box. Inside were not only valuable items such as phoenix-shaped hairpins, silver bracelets, and porcelain bottles, there were also calligraphy models, painting scrolls, classic books, ancient books, and a large number of things, including ancient tripods, silkworm clothes, treasured swords, and so on. On the ancient tripod was engraved in small seal script, "Everlasting prosperity of Yen country, blessings boundless." These objects were all covered with dust, and some classic books and calligraphy models were slightly yellowed. There was no doubt that these things had been around for quite some time. Especially upon seeing that familiar ancient tripod, Zhao Huai's heart was still very surprised. The sealed memories in his mind were unlocked, and the embarrassing experiences of his journey south came flooding back. Zhao Huai inherited the original owner's memories, so these things were very familiar to him. Weren't these things from the imperial palace? He had practically grown up with them, so even now, a glance at them gave him the feeling of being pulled back into the past. Master Huang carefully observed Zhao Huai's expression, and upon seeing no fear or worry, he sighed with relief and softly explained. These items are not only ancient objects, but also some extremely rare ones. I bought them from various places, and they are definitely authentic and safe to acquire. Young master, you may be assured. The middle-aged guard beside him heard his words, and a hint of hidden resentment flashed in his eyes, but he quickly turned his head away. Hearing this, Zhao Huai knitted his brows and fell silent. At this moment, he finally understood why the pawnshops earlier dared not accept this merchant's items, and why the deal was never completed. Seeing through the cunning merchant's true face was one thing. The other reason was even more crucial. 3 years ago, when Xia country was first established, the national treasury was found to be so empty that even the things in the imperial palace had been looted. But the order had just been established, and it was time to spend money. How could they not have silver? In desperation, a prohibition was issued. All property left by the previous Yuan dynasty, including the national treasures, calligraphy, and paintings, were to be handed over and not be privately traded. Only then did they overcome the financial crisis. Now, wasn't Master Huang's behavior crossing the red line? No wonder no one dared to accept it. Zhao Huai indifferently said, "Indeed, they are extremely rare, but these things of yours, if I'm not mistaken, are relics from the previous dynasty, and treasures collected by the Yan imperial family for hundreds of years. Aren't you afraid of losing your head?" Hearing this, Master Huang did not panic, and even smiled. "I didn't misjudge you. The shopkeeper really has great eyesight. I am afraid, of course, but these things are worth silver, and who would dislike having more silver?" Zhao Huai, expressionless, did not believe a word of his lies. With hands behind his back, he immediately threw a copper coin. "Misfortune and fortune are interdependent, let's see. Hexagram 1, money and treasure desired by all, take all the relics, your guidance is misfortune. Trace origins, the merchant does not mean well. Hexagram 2, look back in the past, go further, part with the relics of the previous dynasty, your guidance is misfortune. Trace origins, the merchant's trust is shallow. Hexagram 3, deceive and be accommodating, keep a low profile, pretend to offer, stall for time, selectively choose the items, your guidance is fortune. Trace origins, the merchant is deceptive, the treasures are not his property." It seemed that the situation was still a bit tricky. Agreeing would definitely not work, and refusing directly would probably lead him to use some treacherous tricks. The third one was more reliable. Zhao Huai's thoughts flowed quickly, making his decision and chuckling. Since Master Huang said so, why not introduce these items first? Seeing Zhao Huai's tacit approval, Master Huang was secretly delighted in his heart. Was he finally going to find a buyer this time? When Zhao Huai made his decision, a golden light entered his mind. He knew very well that the destiny had arrived, however, there's no time to check now, he could only listen to Master Huang's explanation first. "Shopkeeper, take a look at this ancient tripod first. This artifact was cast by the Lord of the Immortal Yearning Sect at the time of the unification of the Yan country. It is inscribed with Great Yan Eternal, blessings without boundaries, which is enough to prove its authenticity. Besides, it is said that placing it in the house can suppress demons. A thing from the immortal world is naturally excellent." Listening to Master Huang's explanation, Zhao Huai nodded and responded perfunctorily while calculating in his mind. Since it's about checking in, one shouldn't waste resources. Why not treat this appraisal as a blind box draw? With so many treasures, what if there was a destiny draw of 10 in a row, wouldn't it be too exciting? Thinking about it that way, his mood improved significantly. Zhao Huai looked at the ancient tripod in front of him, examining the misfortune and fortune in his eye. Misfortune and fortune are interdependent, let's just take a look. Hexagram 1, Great Yan Eternal, blessings without boundaries, by taking the treasured tripod, you receive the indication of fortune. Trace origins, a treasure for suppressing demons and evils in the house. Hexagram 2, the merchant woman doesn't know the sorrow of her country's demise, still sings of the flowers in the rear garden across the river. By losing the ancient tripod of Great Yan, you get the indication of misfortune. Trace origins. Rejecting the first item, the merchant will be displeased with you, and others will feel regretful. A treasure that protects the house from demons and invasions is not bad. The only question is, who are the others that will feel regretful? Zhao Huai was very puzzled in his heart. His gaze swept over the bodyguards present, but none of them had any unusual expressions on their faces. Until he saw the middle-aged man in the fourth stage of refining qi. His eyes shifted away, his back turned to them, making it impossible to notice the anomaly without looking. That appearance seemed as if he was avoiding something. Combined with the previous statement, these things don't actually belong to the merchants. Could there be some hidden story behind it? I think this tripod is quite good, I can take it. Zhao Huai looked at the tripod, pretending to be pondering, and replied. That's very good. Master Huang smiled, and then continued to explain the next treasure. The next one is a famous painting. The Prosperous Age painting of the Qingping period is one of the current top 10 famous paintings handed down from ancient times, and it is also a work of the painter Gu Kai at that time. It took 7 days and nights, more than 10 meters long, depicting the scene of the flourishing capital of the Great Yan 300 years ago. Its collection value is unparalleled. Master Huang pointed at the characters in the painting, smiling faintly. The Great Yan was once prosperous, but who could have expected this day to come? The collapse of such a huge foundation, how unfortunate. Zhao Huai was unexpectedly moved by the sight, his tone full of regret. After this remark, the middle-aged guard at his side looked over, his eyes somewhat surprised. As for Master Huang's reaction, it was very cold. What's wrong with the Xiao's country? Shopkeeper, you don't have to worry about it, continue looking at the treasures. After a long time of explanation, Zhao Huai was almost dozing off from listening to these descriptions. But Master Huang had introduced most of the items. As each hexagram appeared in front of Zhao Huai, the fortune and misfortune of obtaining or not obtaining each item were presented. He made both choices and rejections. This Master Huang was indeed cunning, selling things both genuine and fake. If it were not for his divination, he would certainly be cheated. He picked some items that were useful for himself and avoided those counterfeit goods. In total, he obtained 7 destiny orbs, not as many as 10 as he imagined. After all, blind boxes could also be empty. He had 2 human grade, 3 yellow grade, and 2 mysterious grade. These destinies were all more or less related to these antiques. First of all, among these 7 destinies, Zhao Huai felt the most useless were the 2 human grade destinies. They were obtained from a calligraphic model of erudite and a famous painting respectively. Fiddle at writing, and painting technique beginner. The first one allowed him to write beautifully, mastering all styles such as running script, regular script, and cursive script, as if they were written by a master calligrapher. The other one granted him the talent in painting, making everything he drew look lifelike. Zhao Huai never kept useless destinies. Without a second thought, he let them enter the box to eat dust, or use them to upgrade other destinies. Next were the 3 yellow grade destinies, Expert Appraiser, All-Around Gracefulness, and Doctor of Classical Studies. Expert Appraiser was easy to understand from its name. It was a destiny that improved his ability to appraise treasures, identifying the authenticity and flaws of objects. It sounded quite fitting for his pawnshop business. However, to be honest, this destiny was barely satisfactory for Zhao Huai. Barely meeting his standard. Because of the presence of the copper coin, Zhao Huai didn't need to know the authenticity of the treasures. He just needed to know if he should buy them. As for all-around gracefulness, it was a social type of destiny, making him more eloquent and smooth in dealing with people, having a glib tongue, and being thoughtful in interpersonal relationships. Doctor of Classical Studies came from a pile of classical and ancient books, granting the person vast knowledge of scriptures and texts, easily understanding various obscure theories, mastering the writing style of 8-part essays, having a photographic memory, and writing articles like a great scholar, reaching the peak of classical studies. But what use did it have for him? Zhao Huai was following the path of immortal cultivation, charging forward relentlessly, and had no intention to serve the emperor. It might be useful for scholars or students, though. Students from his previous life would surely be overjoyed if they had obtained it. Fortunately, the last two black-grade destinies provided Zhao Huai some consolation as they emerged before his eyes. Refining bones into jade, black-grade lower level, absorb this destiny to transform your bones into ones as hard as spiritual jade. Crystal clear sword mind, black-grade middle level, free your mind, lifting the limit of the sword techniques you've learned, enabling you to perform sword moves as you wish without a fixed set of techniques. Zhao Huai was quite satisfied with these two destinies. The first one emerged from 100-year spiritual jade dragon bone carving, strengthening his defense further. Spiritual jade was used as a material for crafting magical weapons, and after becoming jade, it could withstand tremendous impact, providing better protection. Vajra body only ensured that he had unbreakable, iron skin, while refining bones into jade perfectly complemented his defenses. Copper skin and jade bones complemented each other. The second destiny came from an ancestral sacrificial ancient sword. Originally a magical weapon, its power had significantly diminished after 100 years had passed, reducing it to a mere symbol. This destiny not only aided him in learning sword techniques and mastering swordsmanship, but more importantly, it broke the limits. All sword techniques have limits or weaknesses that constrain their power, but crystal clear sword mind allowed one to break those limits and make a sword technique even more powerful, enabling one to advance further on the sword path. Moreover, through these 7 destinies, Zhao Huai discovered a pattern. Higher value items tend to yield rarer destinies. High-value items can yield high-level useful destinies as well as low-level useless ones. However, low-value items can only yield low-level destinies and cannot jump in quality. For example, the Earth-grade destiny, Lucky Strike, he obtained from an unknown cultivator's black ring was worth the value of an Earth-grade destiny. In contrast, Master Huang's forgeries and other unremarkable items had limited value, only able to yield low-level human-grade destinies. Zhao Huai carefully examined the cart full of antiques and treasures, picking up and putting them down, one after another. For a long time, at least half an hour, Master Huang naturally wouldn't just stand there. Instead, he lay leisurely in the sedan, waiting patiently with a smoking pipe that somehow appeared in his hand. He took deep drags from it, puffing out white smoke every now and then. Zhao Huai finished checking the items and sought Master Huang out. "This should be everything. When do you want to settle the payment, sir?" "Whenever you want, shopkeeper." Master Huang sat up with a grin, taking a glance at the items Zhao Huai had selected. His joyful smile froze for a moment, before returning, but it wasn't as intense as before. Instead, it looked somewhat forced. That was because he noticed that Zhao Huai had taken the best items from the batch, and they were all genuine. He had carefully forged a large number of fake goods, but Zhao Huai didn't pick a single one. How could his eyesight be so perfect? This deal would be a substantial loss for him. Something wasn't right. Master Huang was clearly very unhappy. Upon deciding that after the deal was done, he definitely wouldn't let the shopkeeper take these items away so easily. Zhao Huai could clearly see the subtle changes in Master Huang's expression, but he pretended not to notice, casting a sidelong glance at the middle-aged man beside them. In contrast, the middle-aged guard's expression seemed to have relaxed quite a bit. Zhao Huai secretly wondered, why was this man concerned about the whereabouts of these relics? Did he have some special connection to them? Or perhaps, these relics were not discovered by Master Huang, but by this middle-aged guard? Zhao Huai pondered for a moment before probing. "Master Huang, how did you acquire this batch of relics from the old dynasty? I mean, before you got hold of them, if someone took your items and I end up getting charged, that wouldn't be good. You know what I mean." After listening, a hint of wariness flickered in the depths of Master Huang's eyes, but he reassured with a smile. "Don't worry, shopkeeper. These are items that the destitute royal nobles sold to me after being stripped of their titles. As these Yan nobles were demoted to commoners, I was able to collect these items. Therefore, you don't need to worry, it's absolutely safe." Zhao Huai nodded after listening. Master Huang's explanation sounded reasonable. After the demise of Yan country, the vast imperial family disintegrated and completely lost their former privileges. As they had fallen into the world without any means to support themselves, many people could only secretly sell their jewelry to maintain their family property. However, he didn't fully believe it. How could these royal nobles have access to such national treasures? They were all locked in the emperor's private collection. Seeing Zhao Huai's expression, Master Huang asked curiously. I see the shopkeeper has quite a bit of sympathy for the Yan dynasty. Why is that? Zhao Huai sighed lightly, lamenting, time flies, and feelings change. The Yan dynasty stood for 100 years, and after all, I was born under its rule. My grandfather once served as an official in Yan. Even though 3 years have passed, it's hard to let go. Yan may have been weak, but there were people who stood up to fight against adversities. Level ministers of Yan, veteran generals of Yan, soldiers of Yan, ever one of them died for their country on the battlefield. To say it was all for naught would be too heartless. Perhaps Yan had many shortcomings, but it was still the old dynasty and its past kindness. We cannot forget everything. Zhao Huai said this to once again test the guard and find out what the relationship was between this person and Yan country. As expected, the guard's face showed a thoughtful expression, and he sank into contemplation. Clearly, Zhao Huai's words had an effect on him. However, Master Huang beside them chuckled lightly, seemingly unconcerned. Shopkeeper, you're too emotional. In life, we always cross paths with others, and when disaster strikes, we all flee in different directions. Of course, that's just my opinion. It doesn't matter where we make money, as long as we make it. Who cares who the emperor is? Besides, the middle-aged guard couldn't stand listening to Master Huang's words any longer and interrupted with an expression of disgust and impatience. We should leave, Master. His words cut off Master Huang's sentence. What gives you the right to interrupt me? Master Huang scolded him coldly, clearly dissatisfied with his behavior. He then glanced at the high sun and realized it was noon. Indeed, it was time to leave. So, he put on a smiling face and said to Zhao Huai. It's time for lunch. I won't bother you anymore, shopkeeper. The amount of money is not small, so just have one of your assistants deliver it to Lai Fuin. No problem. Zhao Huai replied, watching the carriages and guards gradually leave. At the same time, he saw that guard among the crowd, who looked back at him from afar. Still no success, huh? On the street. Carriages moved while the bodyguards followed. Master Huang sat in his sedan, smoking leisurely and said coldly to the middle-aged guard beside him, if you interrupt me again, I'll deduct your entire month's salary. Yes, sir. The middle-aged guard replied expressionlessly. Master Huang took a drag on his cigarette, trying to calm his annoyance. He then said in an indifferent tone, just follow the usual plan tonight. We'll make a move after they deliver the money. The middle-aged guard asked puzzledly, Master Huang, didn't you already sell them the items? What do you know? Master Huang flung his cigarette, and suddenly began cursing. He took my best batch of goods, the spiritual jade, the treasured tripod, and the other things he chose. Do you want me to lose money? Have I ever lost money on this journey? Master Huang boasted proudly, those who are afraid to buy or buying fake goods can be ignored, but those who dare to buy real goods, I will frame them as remnants of the old dynasty and make them return the relics. This strategy has never failed. But this shopkeeper bought only genuine items. The middle-aged guard fell silent, not saying anything further. Using this one method of ripping others off, Master Huang had made a fortune from those who dared to take risks. He wasn't afraid of others coming after him, and no one knew where he got his connections. He knew people in the capital city and wasn't afraid of being arrested, but even if he was, it would only last a few days. He then advised Master Huang, this shopkeeper seems different from the others we've encountered. He looks like a kind man. Will killing him harm the harmony of heaven and earth? After listening, Master Huang took a puff of his cigarette and scoffed, I don't care if he's a good or bad person. If he blocks my path to wealth, then he's as good as dead. Just do as I say, and stop talking nonsense. Understood. The middle-aged guard replied, an inexplicable glint flickering in his eyes. At this time, inside Huai's pawnshop, a red square wooden table stood in the center of the room, covered with steaming dishes. Husband, come eat. Yu Qinghan called out to the doorway. Oh, coming. Zhao Huai stepped over the threshold, his eyes fixed on the mouth-watering table of food, his appetite stirred. Yu Qinghan picked up a piece of meat and placed it in Zhao Huai's bowl, then smiled and said, "You've worked hard discussing business, husband." Zhao Huai ate the meat and nodded slowly. Indeed, it's not easy. This businessman is not a good person. He's totally cunning. You don't know, the night luminous pearl he gave you before was fake. Upon hearing this, Yu Qinghan raised her eyebrows. I have to settle accounts with him. If he doesn't die, he must lose a layer of skin. Zhao Huai thought Yu Qinghan was talking about reporting him to the authorities, so he comforted her. Forget it, I've taken advantage of him a few times too. Upon hearing this, Yu Qinghan's expression returned to normal. During the idle talk at the dinner table, Zhao Huai finally remembered the previous assassination attempt and asked casually. By the way, madam, do you still have contact with your family? Yu Qinghan's expression tightened, and she shook her head. I didn't ask deeply at the beginning, but what kind of conflict did you have with your family that made you leave home? Zhao Huai had been curious about this for a long time. Yu Qinghan's initial reason was that she had become tired of the battlefield life, but Zhao Huai believed this was only part of the reason. There must be some other conflict between her and her family. It wasn't appropriate to ask too much when they first met, but now that they were married, it was natural for him to delve deeper. Yu Qinghan sighed, what else can cause a conflict? I have 2 brothers, and we had a falling out over dividing our family assets. After arguing with my father, he said that he no longer recognized me as his daughter. I got the freedom I wanted. Do you have any regrets? Yu Qinghan firmly replied, no regrets. With my husband's support, there's no need to go back to my old home. The time I've spent with you has been the happiest of my life. After listening, Zhao Huai held Yu Qinghan's jade hand tightly and said earnestly, Qinghan, I will treat you well. Yu Qinghan gently responded with a and then asked. Husband, do you remember when I said I would teach you how to cultivate? Yes, what's up? Zhao Huai replied. Yu Qinghan smiled faintly, I think we can start these nights. I have the cultivation techniques from my family, so my husband can start by refining qi and building a strong foundation. Zhao Huai looked at Yu Qinghan's smiling face, deeply touched that she cared so much for him. Now that he was still concealing his cultivation, he felt guilty. What kind of fortune had he accumulated in his previous lives to marry such a virtuous wife? Well, now was the perfect opportunity to gradually reveal his true cultivation level. From now on, he could openly cultivate at home. That's fine, no problem. I'll rely on my wife. Zhao Huai smiled faintly and agreed. Having finished their meal, Yu Qinghan eagerly pulled Zhao Huai to the backyard for cultivation. It must be said, her way of teaching was unique. From theory to the beginning, she had her own unique understanding of cultivation. Yu Qinghan's talent was vastly different from Zhao Huai's. Unlike him, who relied on destiny to improve, she had genuinely and diligently practiced, hardly ever using pills to break through. As a result, her foundation was incredibly strong, and her combat abilities were much higher than ordinary people. With this qi cultivating technique, my husband will be able to refine qi quickly. To succeed in the first layer, you just need to be able to absorb the spiritual qi from the universe into your body and transform it into true qi, Yu Qinghan explained to Zhao Huai very seriously. This left Zhao Huai in an awkward position, as these concepts were utterly basic, and he, of course, knew them. However, at this moment, he had to pretend to be a novice and nod his head in agreement. Is that so? Zhao Huai thought it was about time, so he released his cultivation, adjusting to the first layer of refining qi, and pretended to ask for guidance. Yu Qinghan's hand gently touched Zhao Huai's pubic region, feeling the flow of true qi, and upon confirming that he was at the first layer of refining qi, she exclaimed in astonishment. You've succeeded already? That's great. Zhao Huai's breakthrough gave her a lot of confidence. Seeing the surprise on Yu Qinghan's pretty face, Zhao Huai smiled and said, perhaps it's because of Madame's guidance. Before, I was struggling to get started, but now it's much simpler. Yu Qinghan nodded at his words. Her husband's words made sense, having someone to guide him would indeed greatly increase the success rate. Next, Yu Qinghan looked at Zhao Huai with a sincere gaze and instructed. Qi travels through the meridians and gathers in the pubic region, which means husband has broken through to the first level of refining qi and has officially embarked on the path of cultivation. From now on, you must diligently practice and not slack off. I understand, I will work hard in my cultivation. Zhao Huai nodded solemnly, then smiled and touched her serious face. Otherwise, how can I grow old together with Madame? Yu Qinghan's cheeks flushed, her eyes full of gentleness, and she softly said. When did my husband's words become so sweet? As long as my wife enjoys hearing it. Zhao Huai could not resist leaning closer as he looked at the delicate face before him. Why not now? Boom boom. Just as they were engaged in their intimate conversation, an untimely, urgent knock came from outside, as if some significant matter had occurred. Unbelievable, it had to happen right now. Zhao Huai muttered, his train of thought disrupted. Yu Qinghan, covering her mouth with a smile, urged, all right, go on. Fine, I'll go open the door. Zhao Huai spoke, then stood up and walked towards the door. With a dead fish eye, he impatiently opened the bolt. Once the door was opened, however, the person he saw was somewhat unexpected. Brother Yan, what's the matter? Zhao Huai was surprised, as the doctor, Yan Jing, was standing at his door with a serious expression. There's been an incident. Yan Jing said solemnly. What happened? Zhao Huai furrowed his brows, glancing at the sky outside at the same time. It was already slightly dark, and it seemed the sunset was fading fast. Time truly flew by while cultivating. Do you remember the group of swindlers from earlier today? I remember, what happened? I even managed to get a good deal. Zhao Huai laughed softly. Seeing Zhao Huai's expression, Yan Jing relaxed and said. That swindler has died. Zhao Huai raised his eyebrows in slight surprise. How did he die? Although this news came suddenly, he wasn't shocked. Perhaps he was already prepared for it mentally. Yan Jing indifferently explained, his throat was cut with a single sword stroke. His belongings and cart were robbed. And his heart was removed, leaving it to be gnawed on by wild beasts. The police are now investigating this matter. At first, I thought it was you who did it, considering that he stayed at your place more than anywhere else except the inn. However, when I thought about it, your carefree and detached nature and lack of conflict with the world made me think that it couldn't have been you. Zhao Huai smiled, understanding Yan Jing's purpose for the visit. Yan Jing initially thought he had killed someone, so he wanted to help him. Zhao Huai felt warmth in his heart and said. Indeed, you understand me. If I wanted to kill him, the police would not even find his corpse. Yan Jing heard this and couldn't help but smile. He continued, nevertheless, you shouldn't take this lightly. I estimate that after the police investigate overnight, they'll probably come to question you tomorrow morning. You should be prepared. Alright, I understand. It's a small matter anyway, since I didn't kill the person. Zhao Huai spread his hands. Yan Jing nodded, and then pondered, the murderer's method is somewhat strange though. Why was only the swindler's heart removed while the surrounding bodyguards were left untouched? Zhao Huai thought for a moment before reaching a conclusion. Perhaps the swindler's heart was blacker. Yan Jing asked again, did you notice anything unusual or suspicious about him today when you saw him? The sooner the murderer is found, the safer you will be. There is someone, but I can't be sure. I'll tell you when I'm certain. Zhao Huai had a suspect and a guess in mind, the guard from the day. Initially, he thought his words hadn't worked, but now it seemed that wasn't the case. However, he also didn't dare claim to have 100% certainty, and although he didn't have coffin-nailing evidence, he did have some 70% confidence. Is there any other news? Taking advantage of this opportunity, Zhao Huai wanted to ask for more information. Yan Jing thought for a moment, then replied seriously, there is one thing. Recently, the nearby towns have been troubled, with frequent appearances of demons. It would be best not to go out, as Jianzhou is still safe. Understood, Zhao Huai nodded. Inside the room. In the shadows, a maid quietly appeared, handing several bundles of tied-up medicinal herbs over to Yu Qinghan. My princess, do you really want to teach young Master Zhao cultivation? He is already quite old, and I estimate it will consume a lot of resources. It is worth the expense. Even if I have to spend all my pills, I will assist him in his cultivation. Yu Qinghan accepted the panacea and replied seriously. The maid sighed softly, sigh, young Master Zhao is really lucky to have married such a virtuous wife as the princess. If the veteran generals in the army saw this, they would be dumbstruck. All right, if there's nothing else, you may leave. The maid asked, Princess, since your father's old wounds have recurred, won't you go back to see him? Father is sick again? Yu Qinghan furrowed her brow, a trace of concern in her eyes. Yes, he has been bedridden for 3 days now. The imperial physician said it's a relapse of the hidden injury he sustained on the battlefield. Yu Qinghan scoffed, when did they both become so understanding? Back when the kingdom was first established, they argued ceaselessly over their fiefs. This servant does not know. After all, the crown prince has been staying by His Majesty's bedside day and night, showing great filial piety. Even the civil and military officials are praising him. Well, then, let him take care of it. He can use this opportunity to show his filial piety. Yu Qinghan spoke indifferently. The maid helplessly said, yes, understood. This servant will take her leave. With a whoosh, her figure leaped up and passed through the skylight, disappearing into the night. Madam, I'm back. From outside the bedroom door came Zhao Huai's voice. Yu Qinghan pulled open the skylight and, carrying the medicinal herbs, walked out the door, asking. Husband, what was it? Zhao Huai explained, a friend came to deliver a message, saying there was a murder tonight. It must have been the work of a demon, so he advised me to be careful. In reality, he was very clear that it could not have been the work of a demon. He said this only as an explanation for his wife. Madam, what's that in your hand? Zhao Huai suddenly noticed the bundle of herbs in Yu Qinghan's hand and couldn't help asking curiously. Yu Qinghan smiled and explained, these are the medicinal herbs I selected for my husband. They can temper the body and speed up the refinement of spiritual qi. For someone at your current level, the effects would be significant. Don't worry, it won't cost much, and you don't need to worry. Although my dowry isn't much, it's more than enough to buy you medicine. Upon hearing this, although Zhao Huai was momentarily stunned, he felt deeply moved and tenderly said. Madam, you are truly wonderful. Let me reward you properly. Zhao Huai slept straight through to noon the next day. If there wasn't anything urgent, he wouldn't get up early, sleep as much as he could, and the daily business of the pawnshop was just average, so he was not in a hurry. Seeing that Madam was already busy in the kitchen, Zhao Huai smiled slightly. He was about to open the door of the pawnshop habitually and flip the open sign. However, when he opened the door, he saw a blood-stained storage ring on the carpet by the doorway. Zhao Huai stepped out of the door, scanned the street from left to right, and saw nothing unusual. Whose ring is this? So he curiously examined it. But the contents inside surprised him somewhat. Stacks of spiritual stones and banknotes, which looked quite numerous, along with a large number of antiques, and finally, a seal and a blank piece of paper. Aren't these banknotes the ones I gave out yesterday? And these antique playthings were left over from yesterday's pick. Zhao Huai immediately knew the origin of these things. Weren't they all from that treacherous merchant yesterday? In almost an instant, Zhao Huai realized something. Rushing to take out the last seal and blank paper. This is a small seal, with dried blood smeared on it, only as big as a thumb, made of amber jade, carved in the shape of a tiger body, with small seal script engraved on the bottom. Is these a military seal? Zhao Huai recognized the object before him at once. It was indeed the tiger-shaped military seal, also known as the commander's seal, used in ancient times to mobilize the army for war. He quickly opened the white paper to see what was written on it. Shopkeeper, your words yesterday inspired me greatly, I'll leave these things to you. Zhao Huai only read the beginning and had already guessed who the author of this letter might be. It must be that sword-carrying guard, so he continued reading. After a while, Zhao Huai finished reading the letter and, after looking at the signature Yin country old people, was even more certain that the letter had been left by the guard. At this point, Zhao Huai finally figured out the events of last night and the origins of those treasures. This letter was left by an old soldier of Yin country who had once been a servant in the capital. When Yin City fell, he took away many treasures, but later felt extremely guilty and, after seeing the treacherous merchant's cruel acts, finally decided to kill him. Recollecting the divination result of that day, Zhao Huai now understood why, whether they bought from the treacherous merchant or not, the result was always misfortune. Because he didn't rely on these cultural relics to make money, he relied on secretly usurping others. If it weren't for this old soldier, the treacherous merchant would have sent someone to deal with him. In this case, the death of the treacherous merchant indeed solved one of his troubles. I never expected that he was also a member of the Yen army. Zhao Huai still had a bit of admiration for this old soldier deep in his heart. Although he failed on the battlefield, he managed to repay his loyalty and gratitude for the past, which was rare and commendable. Of course, he might also be overthinking it. The treacherous merchant might have deserved it, and if he hadn't provoked it, the guard might not have killed him so quickly. Zhao Huai tightly held the tiger-shaped seal in his hand, tidied up the antique banknotes in front of him, and put them back into the storage ring. Anyway, what happened has already happened, and people should look forward. Clear the way for the police station. A yell came, and several blue-robed constables appeared on the street. Armed with iron rulers and a solemn expression, they strode towards Huai's pawnshop and directly surrounded the entrance. Seeing this situation, Zhao Huai remained composed. Last night, he thought the police station would come early in the morning, but he didn't expect them to arrive only at noon. It seemed that he and Yan Jing had overestimated the efficiency of the police station. Officers, what case has brought you to my shop? I am a law-abiding citizen, and I do not engage in illegal activities. Zhao Huai pretended to be puzzled, speaking innocently. The leading constable did not reply but first sized up Zhao Huai's appearance. This was their professionalism, gauging some basic information through observation. However, the person in front of them had fair skin, sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and was quite handsome. At first glance, he appeared to be a gentle, well-kept young man with no connection to a vicious criminal. Here's the thing, shopkeeper, last night at the hour of the rabbit, a businessman was killed on the outskirts of town. I investigated his itinerary, and he only came to your place on that day, and he stayed here the longest, so you are highly suspicious. The constable leader spoke while staring intently at Zhao Huai, trying to find any subtle changes in his expression. That businessman is dead? Zhao Huai's face was filled with surprise, as if he had just heard the news. How did you suspect me? I have no reason to kill him. Zhao Huai's tone was quite aggrieved. You do have a motive. Perhaps the deal didn't go through, or the price was not right, all of which are possible. Another constable standing nearby said. Zhao Huai said with a bitter smile, what deal? What price? I was completely deceived. Explain briefly. Zhao Huai complained directly, that businessman was clearly a treacherous merchant. That day, I kindly discussed the price with him, but he deceived me with a fake night luminous pearl. My wife can testify to this. A fake night luminous pearl? Was it because you were deceived that you killed him in a fit of anger? That's impossible. It's just a pearl, not worth it. Zhao Huai shook his head. The head constable always tried to lead Zhao Huai towards the direction of murder, but Zhao Huai was not affected at all. The head constable exchanged glances quickly with several constables behind him. They watched Zhao Huai's reactions closely but found nothing unusual. Tell us the details at the police station. We'll also file a report. The head constable turned to Zhao Huai and said. Go to the police station? Upon hearing this, Zhao Huai naturally objected. Can't we just talk here? There are officials at the police station who will record the situation, and we will take note of everything you say. The head constable explained. Zhao Huai understood that they wanted him to go to the police station to give a statement. But who would want to go to that cold prison? He still didn't know what these constables were thinking. It was not so much about recording a statement as it was about using the threat of prison to see if they could expose any faults in him. Get out of the way. Don't block your master's way. Just as Zhao Huai wanted to take out a copper coin to divine good and bad luck, a domineering voice came from the side of the road. He and the surrounding constables all looked over. A wealthy young master dressed in fine clothes and wearing 3 rings on one hand strode towards them. Li Yanqing? Zhao Huai couldn't help but smile when he saw the newcomer. Striding towards the pawnshop, the pompous Li Yanqing saw the constables blocking the entrance and Zhao Huai in the middle. His expression suddenly turned ugly, and he roared directly, "Damn it, you all want to die. You dare to surround the life-saving teacher of this young master. Young Master Li." Several constables looked at the newcomer, and the aura on their faces diminished considerably. They all bowed their heads respectfully, cupping their hands. That's because the identity of the newcomer was notorious to them. The biological son of Jianzhou Prefecture Chief Li Chong, Li Yanqing. He could be seen in the police station every day, and people had to address him as young master. After all, he was a genuine troublemaker in the station, not to mention that he often used many strong constables as his lackeys. Could there be anything more outrageous than this? But no one dared to confront him except his father. Governor Li was busy all day and had no time to deal with his son. As subordinates, they were afraid to complain and could only talk about it behind his back. So they usually kept their distance from Li Yanqing. Now, Li Yanqing had already run over and stood in front of the constables. He raised his finger and began scolding. Who gave you the guts to arrest my master? Master? The constables looked at each other, bewildered. Li Yanqing placed his hands on his hips and sneered, "This senior is the new master my father found for me. Don't you, Immo?" A few constables glanced at each other, obviously unaware of the matter. Young Master Li, we really haven't heard about this. You haven't heard about it because your rank is too low. If I say there is, there is. Li Yanqing replied coldly. Zhao Huai watched the arrogant Li Yanqing in front of him and glanced at the constable's expressions, which were evidently constipated. The head constable knew that he absolutely couldn't offend the young master in front of him, otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to keep his position. At the same time, this case was very important and not easy to compromise. So, he could only reluctantly smile apologetically, "Young Master Li, we're just following the normal procedures. Besides, we didn't know he was your master. We're just inviting the shopkeeper over for a chat, and it won't cause any harm." Li Yanqing crossed his arms and refused, his tone resolute. The constable asked suspiciously. Li Yanqing said calmly, "I have something to ask the senior." "You can't take him away. But he's related to a significant case, and it's difficult to explain to the governor. Please don't make things difficult for us." The constable said troubledly. "I'll handle it," Li Yanqing impatiently said. "Are you trying to take action? Are you still not leaving?" After exchanging glances, a few constables reluctantly turned around to leave, planning to report back first. "Senior, my apologies." Seeing the constables finally leaving, Li Yanqing turned back and smiled at Zhao Huai, performing a salute. The difference between his demeanor now and just a moment ago was like night and day. Zhao Huai leaned against the door, silently watching the entertaining scene unfold, and couldn't help but smile. "Your young master's prestige is quite impressive." Li Yanqing shook his head and sighed, "Ah, it's still nothing compared to you, senior." When will I be able to control swords through the air like you, kill someone within 10 steps without getting blood on me? That would be real prestige. Alright, enough bootlicking. What do you want from me? Zhao Huai asked with a faint smile. As soon as this topic was brought up, Li Yanqing's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, "It has been several days since I last saw you, senior. You promised to teach me refining qi. I've been eagerly waiting, so I took the initiative to come here. I've been somewhat busy for the past few days and forgot." Zhao Huai explained the reason, then leisurely said, "This matter is not urgent, and I'll have some free time in the coming days. Why not examine your qualifications now? Senior, please check." Li Yanqing raised his hand straightforwardly, not caring at all. Zhao Huai grabbed the young man's hand, and his true qi entered Li Yanqing's body to check him. However, it was just a moment of contact. Eek! An invisible face of a fox formed out of black smoke screamed sharply and rushed out of Li Yanqing's meridians. It launched an attack directly at Zhao Huai. Zhao Huai squinted his eyes. At this moment, the stable Taoist mind, destiny in his head suddenly activated. An invigorating qi gushed out from his mind, merging into the spiritual power barrier formed by the insanity technique. The spiritual power expanded until it became like a solid substance, eventually transforming into an ancient bell emitting a deep dong-dong rumble. The deafening bell reverberated endlessly, capable of cleansing one's state of mind and removing demonic nature. Instantly, the demonic qi in the shape of a fox face was shattered. Then, Zhao Huai took out a stack of yellowed talisman papers from the black ring. He used his hand as a brush and qi as ink. He began to draw the talisman with a single hand, his movements so fast that only afterimages could be seen. With the backing of the Excellence in Talisman inscription, Destiny, Zhao Huai's proficiency in drawing talismans had risen by another level. "Senior, what is this?" Li Yanqing looked puzzled at the scene unfolding before him, somewhat confused. Zhao Huai did not respond, but continued drawing talismans. True qi at the tip of his fingers glowed brightly, like a lantern. The intricate patterns on the paper surface were deep and tricky, dancing like a flying dragon. In just a short moment, 2 talismans were completed. Without saying anything, Zhao Huai directly pasted them onto the back of Li Yanqing's neck. After doing all this, Zhao Huai slowly let go of Li Yanqing's hand. "What happened, senior?" Only now did Li Yanqing dare to speak up and ask. Zhao Huai frowned and said solemnly, "You have demonic qi within you." "Demonic qi?" Hearing this word, Li Yanqing's brain buzzed. "Yes, a very strong demonic qi." Zhao Huai nodded slightly and began to explain, "I originally wanted to examine your meridians, but a burst of demonic qi suddenly surged out. I suppressed it with my spiritual power, but it still remains within your body. Senior, what should I do?" Li Yanqing's expression was quite painful, resembling a bitter gourd. Zhao Huai reassured him, "I've drawn the Water Thunder Talisman and Earth Suppressing Thunder Talisman to hold down the demonic qi for now. You don't have to worry for the time being." The Water Thunder Talisman and Earth Suppressing Thunder Talisman belonged to the 5 Elements Thunder Talisman, basic Taoist talismans, which were sufficient for now. Although Li Yanqing was relieved after hearing this, he was still puzzled. Why would I have demonic qi inside my body? The demonic qi is very strong and has been lurking within you for some time. Zhao Huai added. While contending against the demonic qi earlier, Zhao Huai clearly felt that it carried a hint of peculiar allure. Over time, it could corrode a person's state of mind. Seeing Li Yanqing deep in thought, Zhao Huai reminded him. "Think about it, where have you been recently? Where do you usually go every?" "I got it." Suddenly, Li Yanqing slapped his head and said in realization, "It must be the Drunken Flower Tavern." Drunken Flower Tavern? Zhao Huai was stunned, but quickly understood. Wasn't the Drunken Flower Tavern a brothel? This kid went to the brothel every day. No wonder he encountered demons. If he wasn't sucked dry by demons, he would be sucked dry by other stuff. Li Yanqing recalled, "I remember the Drunken Flower Tavern brought in a group of new girls. One of them was not only extremely seductive but also had a pleasant voice. I went there quite a few times in a row. Having thought about it, Li Yanqing laughed bitterly. Senior, can you eliminate that demon? It would count as getting rid of a menace for the people. Zhao Huai stretched lazily and said indifferently. Not going, I'm too busy. Why bother with that? Just don't go to the brothel anymore, problem solved. Hearing Zhao Huai's rejection, Li Yanqing felt slightly disappointed in his heart. Zhao Huai glanced at him and slowly said, This is the second lesson I'm teaching you, do what you can and don't show off. Because you don't know how many enemies there are. What if you kill one and a group comes, then you kill a group and another horde comes? What would you do? So the best thing to do is to avoid it. Upon hearing Zhao Huai's words, Li Yanqing nodded thoughtfully, seeming to understand, and firmly said. I understand, Senior. I will not go to the brothel anymore. As long as you understand, you can go back now. As long as the demonic qi on your body is not cleaned, it is impossible to refine qi. Zhao Huai said with his hands behind his back. I understand. Although Li Yanqing was helpless, he had no choice. Who could blame his bad luck? Wait. As soon as Li Yanqing turned his head, he was stopped by Zhao Huai. What's wrong, Senior? Zhao Huai took out 3 Taoist talismans from the black ring and smiled. Take these 3 Taoist talismans first. Thanks to you for today's Constable incident, with these talismans, you can repel ordinary demons and still have time to escape. Li Yanqing took the talismans, a sly smile flashed in his eyes. It seemed that Senior still cared about him and deliberately left 3 talismans for self-defense. You don't have true qi magic power, so just aim and throw them when using. Zhao Huai reminded him again. Li Yanqing smiled brilliantly. I understand, Senior. If you need help in the future, just come to me. Once a teacher, forever a father. Your business is my business. I'll take my leave now. Watching the departing figure, Zhao Huai couldn't help but ponder deeply. The demonic qi on Li Yanqing was not weak, and it should be among the top-ranked demons he had ever encountered. Though he hadn't encountered many demons himself. Speaking of the word demon, Zhao Huai carefully recalled these 3 years since he came to this world, and the number of demons he had seen with his own eyes should still be within 10. As for demons, his understanding was also very limited. At present, the only information Zhao Huai knew was the following. First, demons like to eat humans and disguise themselves as humans, wearing human skin, hiding among mortals, deceiving and eating people. They are often ferocious, some are beasts, and some are ghosts. Powerful demons will keep humans in captivity, fattening them up before eating. Fortunately, they also have weaknesses. No matter how much they look like humans, there will always be flaws, and often a certain part of their body is a demon's characteristic. Second, demons are also graded, but he doesn't know the specific grades. It is said that the more human-like the demon, the higher the grade, and the more similar to humans, the more difficult it is to find the small flaws in their bodies. Lastly, magical weapons are the best tools for cultivators to kill demons. The stronger the magical weapon, the better the effect. Magical weapons are divided into 1 to 9 stars according to their power, and 9-star magical weapons are the strongest in the world. Every year, many Immortal Cultivation Sect disciples go down the mountain to eliminate demons, maintaining the order of the mortal world. The human race still maintains the upper hand, and small demons dare not show their heads easily. As for more information, Zhao Huai's research was not thorough. He learned much of the information above from ancient books. For example, how do demons disguise themselves as humans? Where are their gathering places located? What specific species of demons are there? He didn't know these questions. When Zhao Huai first saw a demon, it was on his way south to escape. At the lakeside, a group of people was drinking water. As he was drinking water, someone was pulled into the water by a hidden, unclear monster at the bottom of the lake. At that time, he was just a young man who had just turned 20. Where had he seen such a scene, his face turned pale with fright, and he fled on the spot. It was after witnessing the tragic scenes of people being slaughtered in chaotic times that he firmly resolved to pursue immortal cultivation. He cultivated his detached mentality in the face of difficulties. Shaking off his thoughts, Zhao Huai walked towards the house. However, after looking around for a while, he still hadn't seen Madam's figure. Not in the kitchen? Did she go out? He looked around and saw the ready-made dishes on the table, slightly puzzled. At the same time, there was a medicine furnace in the middle of the kitchen, emitting hot air, and he didn't know what was being prepared inside. The fragrance of medicinal herbs wafted out from it. "Husband, I'm back." As Zhao Huai was pondering, a familiar voice came from the back door. Zhao Huai saw Yu Qinghan returning with a basket of vegetables and couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Madam, where did you go just now? You disappeared in a short while." Yu Qinghan put the vegetable basket in the kitchen and smiled. "I saw that you were awake, so I went out to buy some medicinal herbs. I'm also going to start cultivating, so I thought I'd buy mine at the same time. The medicine takes a long time to boil, so you'll have to wait a few more days, husband." Yu Qinghan was telling the truth. Her cultivation was progressing rapidly. Although she didn't need pills to break through, she needed medicinal strength to stabilize her cultivation. "Let's eat first." "All right." By the afternoon, Zhao Huai was idle in front of the counter, and his wife had gone to see a play. The pawnshop's business was still average. Occasionally someone would pawn some silver or jade, but it was always small money. Since he had some free time right now, why not upgrade his destiny and clean up the bottom of the box destinies? Zhao Huai began to check his mind and found that apart from a few evergreen destinies, many destinies still needed to be upgraded. For example, light as a swallow, human grade medium, and swordsmanship specialization, yellow grade high. These two destinies had been with Zhao Huai for a long time, and their effects were quite good. However, their grades were a bit low, so they needed to be upgraded. Without any hesitation, Zhao Huai first disassembled the fiddle at writing and painting technique beginner destinies. The white star points in his mind all flowed into light as a swallow. Bright yellow light came and a new destiny was born. Quick mover, yellow grade high. Your movement is very fast, the speed has increased greatly, twice that of the original. Zhao Huai nodded in satisfaction. With a speed that reached double the original, he could definitely dominate a large group of people at the same level. Then, it was time for swordsmanship specialization. Dismantle, Doctor of Classical Studies, and all-around gracefulness. Zhao Huai murmured in his heart. He had thought about this in advance. Doctor of Classical Studies could only enhance his academic talent in classics, which was not very relevant to him. The other one was all-around gracefulness, a social-type destiny. He felt that his own brain was already enough for him and didn't need to be upgraded. He could give it to something more useful instead. He still planned to save Expert Appraiser as a trump card, since it was something to rely on for his livelihood, and he would see if it was useful in the future. The yellow light spot disappeared in his mind, and a new dark blue destiny appeared, and swordsmanship specialization finally transformed. Zhao Huai took a closer look. Sword skill genius, black grade high, you possess unparalleled talent in swordsmanship, and your cultivation speed in sword skills is very fast. Special effect, swordsmanship enlightenment, achieve a state where man and sword are one for an hour, once a week. Seeing this destiny, Zhao Huai's eyes lit up. Sword skill genius? With this destiny, I can make even greater breakthroughs in swordsmanship. I need to ponder on this swordsmanship enlightenment. Zhao Huai would never underestimate this special effect, as he had experienced the Ultimate's Intention stage within, peak Ultimate's Intention. The horror of having 8 times the strength of the physical body could completely shatter any method. So, this swordsmanship enlightenment cannot be underestimated either. Zhao Huai had only heard of the state of man and sword as one, but he had never personally experienced it. Do you want to merge destiny? Merge. Sword skill genius, destiny's faint blue light bloomed, slowly returning to its position. As an early permanent destiny, its status is hard to shake. With the support of the Destiny, Zhao Huai clearly felt that his understanding of swordsmanship in his mind began to deepen, and he made a qualitative leap. All the basic sword techniques he had learned before, many of which were wrong and cumbersome, he could now discern one by one. He could even evolve them in the simplest way. This is the extraordinary aspect of swordsmanship talent. Zhao Huai then absorbed, quick mover, and a refreshing feeling immediately spread through his body, making his limbs feel very light. Invisibly, his speed had reached twice that of before. At the same time, Zhao Huai didn't forget about the 2 Xian-grade destinies he obtained from the unscrupulous antique dealer. Refining bones into jade, and crystal clear sword mind. He was most impressed by the crystal clear sword mind destiny, which could unleash the upper limit of sword technique and not be limited by each move. Zhao Huai suddenly had an idea. This crystal clear sword mind and sword skill genius have the same essence but different techniques. Both destinies enhance swordsmanship, but in different aspects. Crystal clear sword mind focuses on sword moves, while sword skill genius is about talent. What would happen if both were combined? Zhao Huai couldn't help but get excited and immediately picked up a swordsmanship cultivation technique to study. If it were an ordinary technique, that would be fine, he could learn it at a glance. But this sword technique was quite special. It was something you might learn, but it would be extremely difficult to master in a lifetime. Cultivating such a sword technique requires great talent. At this moment, Zhao Huai was revisiting this sword technique he had learned before in his mind. Its name is sword drawing skill. Sword drawing skill is an extremely basic sword technique, but those who master it are very few. Many people misunderstood it as a sword drawing technique to practice, including Zhao Huai at first. But in fact, this was entirely the wrong direction. Sword drawing skill is not a sword move technique, but a constantly evolving, growing sword technique. What is the real sword drawing skill? It is adjusting oneself to the peak state, with the mind, spirit, and chi united as one. Nurturing the sword in the heart, sheathing the blade. The strength gathered over many years, and the moment of release. If it doesn't sound, it's already amazing. When it does, it's extraordinary. Ancient classics record that immortals used swords to break stones, overturn seas of clouds, and call it the sword. Zhao Huai restudied sword drawing skill, corrected the previous mistakes, but there was still a little gap to achieve a real transformation. Don't underestimate this gap, it often determines the key to success. Outsiders come and go at Huai's pawnshop. As long as they look inside, they can see a person with closed eyes, leaning on a recliner, as if taking a nap. In fact, Zhao Huai was in a state of meditation and enlightenment. However, no matter how many insights he gained, his understanding of momentum was still vague. How could he use sword momentum and guide it? As long as he could break through this thin layer of paper, he could truly master the sword drawing skill. Activate swordsmanship enlightenment. Zhao Huai silently chanted in his heart. The special effect of sword skill genius, destiny was activated, and he suddenly fell into a mysterious realm. He felt as though he had become a sword, with a bottomless sharpness, refined in a deep, cold environment. With Zhao Huai as the center, invisible whirlwinds began to form around him. He made the posture of drawing a sword, and although there was no sword in his hand, there was an inexplicable momentum. Whirlwinds followed him, releasing a mysterious power. It was fierce but harmless. Zhao Huai's body was still, the whirlwinds grew larger, and his hand gripping the imaginary sword became tighter and tighter. At this point, he had entered the realm of man and sword as one. More and more whirlwinds were spreading from Zhao Huai, even causing the copper coins on the shelves to jingle. With the crystal clear sword mind, destiny, it allowed his state of mind to be imprinted with the sword, breaking the shackles of the upper limit. Until a tipping point, there was a whoosh sound. An overwhelming sword intent erupted from the pawnshop, shaking the branches of the willow trees outside the shop door. A fierce wind swept across, causing the passers-by to cover their faces and complain, feeling inexplicable. This is the sword drawing skill. I've got it. Zhao Huai stood up hurriedly, with sharp eyes and beads of sweat on his forehead and neck. Now he had finally learned the real sword-drawing skill, mastered the sword intent, and taken a big step forward in swordsmanship. Understanding sword intent is an essential step for sword cultivators in their cultivation path. Pear Blossom Alley. People filled the benches in rows, with a makeshift stage in the center where actors passionately recited their lines. Yu Qinghan sat among the audience, engrossed in the performance, her face still showing a smile. Invisible to the surrounding, many people were watching her, their eyes gleaming with cold light. She seemed not to notice, still focusing on the stage. My princess, King Yan wants to form an alliance with us, hoping to join forces against King Qin. A young-sounding woman's voice whispered softly into Yu Qinghan's ear. This middle-aged woman was a disguised maidservant. Upon hearing this, Yu Qinghan shook her head. My second brother? He's no good either. If I were to say that my eldest brother is a foolish brute, then he is as cunning as a fox, fond of using tricks when employing soldiers, and treating people with inscrutable depths. He probably doesn't have good intentions. Does your highness mean to refuse him? Yu Qinghan glanced at her and said indifferently, I don't need to join anyone, or even defeat anyone. The war is over, and what's the point of these internal struggles? Upon hearing this, the maidservant nodded and said. But the assassination order is still in effect, and now your highness's situation is still very dangerous. Just some trivial matters, unworthy of attention. The shadowless pavilion in the black market, right? Wait for me to reach the initiation stage, and I'll wipe them all out. Yu Qinghan's indifferent tone was as if she was discussing a trivial matter. However, someone is bothering me while I am watching the performance, which is indeed irritating. After saying that, she stood up and gracefully patted the creases in her embroidered cloud skirt. Your Highness, what are you doing? The maidservant was taken aback. To kill. Huai's pawnshop. Zhao Huai felt increasingly better after mastering the sword-drawing skill. He glanced towards the shop entrance and business was still slow. He couldn't help but think about the prospect of reaching the initiation stage. He had been in possession of the initiation pill for a few days now, and the only reason he had not immediately consumed it to achieve a breakthrough was because he was waiting for the right opportunity. However, this breakthrough needed preparation. It was best to adjust both the physical and spiritual states to their peak and then use panacea for assistance. Zhao Huai estimated that it would be time for his breakthrough when the medicinal herbs prepared by the madam were ready in a few days. With the medicinal herbs as catalysts and in a secluded and peaceful location, a breakthrough aided by the initiation pill would be more reliable. After all, there was only one initiation pill, which could not be wasted. So, all factors needed to be carefully considered. Feeling idle, Zhao Huai took out a sheet of aged yellow talisman paper from the black ring, dipped his brush in ink, and began to experiment with new talisman. He had already mastered several fundamental talismans like the Fire Thunder Talisman and the Five Elements Talisman. He could draw them single-handedly and without the need for paper or pencil. The Water Thunder Talisman and the Earth-Suppressing Thunder Talisman used to suppress the demonic qi within Li Yanqing were examples of this. However, this practice required quite a bit of proficiency and demanded high-quality true qi. Drawing talismans with paper and a brush conserved true qi. You could draw as many as you want in advance, provided you had enough materials. Of course, drawing talismans directly also had its advantages in terms of convenience and adaptability. However, Zhao Huai once read about a more potent method in the 3000 Thunderbolt technique. But, this was a more advanced method. There were also theories that different cultivators with different constitutions used different types of talisman. As Zhao Huai was engrossed in drawing talisman, customers finally arrived at the door. Is anyone there? Shopkeeper? A female voice asked. Zhao Huai stopped his task and looked up to answer. Of course there is. Do you wish to pawn or sell something? Selling meant bringing valuable items to pawn in exchange for money. Those items usually included treasures, land deeds, house deeds, etc. Pawning, on the other hand, meant temporarily putting valuable items in the pawnshop as collateral for a loan to tide over urgent needs. The belongings could be reclaimed once the owners had the funds. There was another more direct way: borrowing money, though with high interest rates. Many pawnshops made profits by providing high-interest loans. Neither. I am here to change some money. A young woman walked into the shop. Only then did Zhao Huai get a chance to look at her face and attire. The woman, dressed in a blue long skirt, had her silky hair draped over her shoulders and sported a fragrant sachet at her waist. She was remarkably tall, and the slits in her skirt revealed a pair of slender and fair legs. Her eyes were beautiful and bright, comparable to autumn water. However, the glance in her eyes was rather cold. There was a flowing imprint at the center of her eyebrows. The woman had a strong aura every time she moved. The aura stemmed from her strength. Zhao Huai nearly concluded at first glance. The woman must be a cultivator. Both her complexion and demeanor were beyond comparison with ordinary people. Under the sensing of stable Taoist mind, he found that the surrounding spiritual qi was slowly flowing towards her. She is not just any cultivator, she is a formidable one. Her cultivation is likely to be higher than his. Considering her youth, it could be concluded that she is a disciple of an immortal cultivation sect. Zhao Huai concluded in his heart that the woman's cultivation should be at the initiation stage. The girl in the green skirt seemed slightly surprised by Zhao Huai's age but quickly regained her composure. She lightly flicked her hand and brought out several radiant spiritual stones, placing them on the counter. Zhao Huai took the spiritual stones, glanced at them, and was slightly surprised. The quality of these spiritual stones was exceptional, and they were filled with an abundance of spiritual qi, almost in a misty state. They were undoubtedly not inferior spiritual stones. They were genuine superior spiritual stones. One superior spiritual stone could be exchanged for 1,000 taels of silver. Alright, please wait for a moment. Zhao Huai didn't hesitate to take a few high-denomination silver notes from the box behind him and immediately handed them over to her. The girl in the green skirt accepted the silver notes and said, smiling faintly, "Shopkeeper, do you know where the dog meat shop is around here? I want to buy some dog blood." "Dog meat shop? Continue down this street, and it will be in the third alley at the end," Zhao Huai replied, pointing out through the door. "Thanks, shopkeeper. Looking at you, it's clear that you are not an ordinary person. You must be a disciple of a sect." "It's been a while since I saw someone of your caliber," Zhao Huai said with a smile. Meeting a formidable cultivator after a long time, he naturally wanted to curry favor and try to acquire some valuable information. Just as the girl was about to turn around and leave, she heard Zhao Huai's words, and her expression remained unchanged. She smiled and replied, "Indeed. Most disciples of a sect were arrogant and indifferent to ordinary mortals. This girl, however, was different. She was relatively approachable." "Why do you need dog blood?" Zhao Huai asked, puzzled. The woman in the green dress stared at Zhao Huai and explained slowly, "Naturally, it's for exorcising demons. Recently, the demons have re-emerged, wreaking havoc everywhere. The sect sent us disciples down from the mountain to exterminate these demons one by one." Acting as though he understood, Zhao Huai said, "I see, that truly is a good deed. Shopkeeper, you meet many people in your business. Have you sensed any movements from the demons?" asked the woman in the green dress, seemingly gaining information as well. After pondering for a moment, Zhao Huai replied, "Jianzhou seems safe. Is there any activity in the vicinity regarding demons?" The woman in the green dress nodded. "A powerful demon appeared in Jingyang town, causing many deaths. Many people were abducted by the demon. The way they died was pitiful." Upon hearing this, Zhao Huai was somewhat surprised. "Jingyang town? Isn't that near Jinzhou?" "Yes. So it should be wandering around somewhere near Jinzhou," the woman in the green skirt replied, furrowing her brow. "If you sense anything, you must inform the officials. They will contact the sect, which will then send people. We'll take action at that time." Having heard the woman's instructions, Zhao Huai nodded and complimented. "Ah, it's good you guys are taking action. This demon has truly killed many." Looking at the back of the woman in the green skirt receding away, Zhao Huai couldn't help but wonder. The incident in Jingyang town was no small matter. A town usually has about 2,000 people, but it was uncertain how many had perished. The fact that disciples of the initiation stage were dispatched implied the issue was serious, as normally the cultivators at the initiation stage were pivotal to the sect and wouldn't be sent out casually. It seemed Yanjing spoke the truth. Recently, he really should not venture out. But he couldn't fathom why the demons had suddenly become so rampant. Could it be related to the 4 demons he encountered last time? Rebel! Kneel down. In the inner city of Jianzhou, in a majestic mansion, a lean middle-aged man berated a wealthy young master. The surrounding servants stepped back, somewhat fearful. This rich young master was none other than Li Yanqing, who had just returned from outside. At this moment, he was filled with unwillingness and stared coldly at the middle-aged man, saying, "What did I do wrong?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man looked at his son, trembling with anger. This person was Li Yanqing's father, Li Chong, who was also the prefecture chief of Jianzhou. Governor Li was an elegant and learned middle-aged man in a green official robe, with cloud embroidery on his sleeves, and a short black beard on his chin. His appearance gave a reliable impression. However, the dark circles around his eyes were quite heavy, and his expression was haggard, obviously overworked from day and night. "You dare say you did nothing wrong? Who gave you the courage to obstruct the constables in handling the case? Do you know how big this case is, how many people have died, and you dare to stop them?" Li Chong scolded sternly. Li Yanqing showed no fear on his face at this moment, but instead had a calm and composed demeanor, as if he had anticipated this outcome. He chuckled nonchalantly. "Father, this person is the teacher I'm looking for. Naturally, he can't be arrested. Didn't you say that as long as I find a teacher myself who can teach me refining qi, you won't interfere with my affairs?" Upon hearing this, Li Chong furrowed his brow. He had indeed said that. Initially, because of his mediocre aptitude and hopeless cultivation, he took the exam for an official position. He wanted to cultivate a better successor to enter the Immortal Sect, so he found a teacher for Li Yanqing. However, they all said that his son had poor aptitude and could not be taught. He then thought about letting his son study, but Li Yanqing was simply not interested in studying. Unexpectedly, his son turned out to be such a disappointment, neither good at cultivation nor studying, becoming a prodigal son. He had scolded Li Yanqing that if he could cultivate, he would let him do whatever he wanted and not interfere. If he couldn't, he would obediently return to his studies. However, this was an angry remark, and who would have thought that Li Yanqing would actually go looking for a teacher? But most of them were still swindlers. Li Chong coldly said, "What kind of swindler from all folk corners of the country have you found? The recent huge expenses in the mansion are all thanks to you, right?" Li Yanqing confidently said, "This time, the teacher I found is definitely not a swindler, he is a genuine teacher, and I have witnessed his strength with my own eyes." Seeing his son like this, Li Chong didn't believe in his heart that he could find any powerful figures. Because powerful cultivators were all in sects, and powerful loose cultivators were few and far between. He knew very well what kind of person his son was, so he didn't believe it in his heart. "Stop causing trouble. Father, what I said is true." Li Chong coldly snorted and ignored him, directly ordering the steward beside him. "Notify the police station that the person who should be tried must be tried." "Yes, master." "I said, you can't try him." Li Yanqing rushed over, blocking the steward's path and said firmly, "Today, as long as I'm here, you won't be able to touch a single hair on that senior." Insolent. Governor Li saw his son not only did not repent but dared to talk back, and was instantly filled with rage. The old and new anger surged, and the annoying matters of the case had already put him in a bad mood. "You unfilial son." He strode forward and slapped his son's face. Smack. A clear sound echoed as Li Yanqing was slapped to the ground by his father, and blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. He covered his bruised cheek, staring at his father with wide eyes. He didn't expect his father to actually hit him. His heart filled with rage as he roared. What right do you have to hit me? How many times have you been home since I was a child? Even when my mother died, all you had in your heart was your official position. Do you deserve it? Listening to these words, Li Chong became even angrier. What do you imo? I'm doing this for the common people. He grabbed Li Yanqing's collar and was about to teach him a lesson, but was stopped by the pleading of the steward by his side. Master, show mercy. After all, young master is your son. As Li Chong grabbed Li Yanqing's collar, he accidentally tore off the Taoist talisman on the back of his neck. Hiss. He only felt a paper-like thing in his hand. As the Taoist talisman fell off, a strong black smoke emanated from a black mark on the back of his neck and entered Li Yanqing's body. Li Yanqing suddenly smelled a fragrance that made him feel extremely happy, as if he could forget all his troubles from his nose to his brain. Then, his vision went black, and he passed out. As soon as Li Chong let go, Li Yanqing instantly fell to the ground. The young master has fainted. Steward shouted as he tried to help Li Yanqing up from the ground. Chinger. Seeing his son collapse in front of him, Li Chong's anger dissipated and he looked frightened. After all, he had only one son, his only heir. Quick, call Dr. Yen. Li Chong hastily ordered the steward. Yes, sir, I'll send someone right away. And what's this? Then, Li Chong stared at the Taoist talisman crushed in his hand and muttered. Sir, it seems to be a Taoist talisman. Among the numerous pavilions in Jianzhou City, where music and dance flourished, stood the famous Drunken Flower Tavern. Inside, the women were dressed in gauzy, revealing clothes, baring their arms and shoulders as they performed on the central stage. Listening to the music and admiring the beauties was an indulgent way of life. Third floor private room. Inside the room, incense wafted, and the curtains fluttered with the breeze. A stunning woman lay on the bed. Her exposed shoulders and collarbones were tempting enough to send one's mind racing. I thought the aura had disappeared, but it was just suppressed. How annoying. The beautiful woman stuck out her tender tongue. The sultry lips below her breath exuded the most primitive desires of men. Her captivating coquettish voice could evoke emotions in men. A guest has arrived, Hooer. The old procuress's voice came from outside the room. Got it, mother. The woman replied, gracefully getting up and opening the door. He. My beautiful madam. A skinny, lewd-looking man barged in, chuckling as he closed the door behind him. The beautiful woman dodged him with a swift move and a charming smile. No need to hurry, dear guest. My beautiful darling, I've missed you so much. I booked you for the whole week. The thin man's face was sickly pale, with heavy dark circles around his eyes, but his mouth was full of laughter. Giggle. Slowly approaching the man, she giggled and traced circles on his chest with her delicate jade fingers. Your slave is all yours, but are you willing to give your life for me? Grabbing her hand, the man greedily sniffed the fragrance from her fingertips, and laughed. Of course I am. With a slight smirk, the gorgeous woman embraced the man and coquettishly said. Your slave is touched. Buoyed with pride and a beauty in his arms, the thin man suddenly noticed a fluffy object behind the woman. My beauty, what's that tail on your back? A new accessory, don't you like it? Of course I do. Anxious, the thin man pulled the curtains and got overwhelmed with passion. But merely a few minutes later, gasping for breath, the man wondered. What's the matter today? The enchanting woman sighed seductively, laying on the pillow with her hair scattered around her. Oh, my, your vitality is so pitifully scanty. Go to die, then. In an instant, a terrifying fox face appeared in front of the man, its mouth full of sharp teeth. Do you like me this way, too? The man's mouth was tightly sealed, his eyes exuding terror, which then turned into lifeless gray. Crack! The sound of skin and bone separating sent chills down one's spine. Scarlet blood gushed, splattering on the bright red wallpaper. After a while, an emotionless man emerged from the room, his face devoid of any blood. Like a puppet, he left the Drunken Flower Tavern. I can't let that target I just spotted get away, huh? Giggle. The girl's sultry laughter echoed once more from the room. Jishur Pharmacy. The place was filled with a pungent smell of herbal medicine, with paper bags tied with hemp rope scattered on the table. All right, Brother Zhao, what's the matter? Couldn't it be discussed outside? Why drag me in here? Yan Jing was pulled into the pharmacy room by Zhao Huai, helplessly patting his own sleeves. Brother Yan, what you said came true. Zhao Huai looked at Yan Jing, his eyes filled with seriousness. What matter? Yan Jing felt that he had said quite a lot, as there were countless bits of news big and small every day. There was always more work for his brain to do. Did you win the bet on Kuju? Or the case where you were questioned by the constable? Zhao Huai shook his head, neither, the constable's case has already passed. You forgot? It's the matter of the demons. Yan Jing looked at Zhao Huai, his eyes revealing a sudden realization, and finally remembered it. Do you know about Jingyang Town? Zhao Huai asked quite seriously. Yan Jing nodded, of course, it was because this happened that I reminded you. Tell me more? Zhao Huai raised his eyebrows. Well, the matter is quite simple, but somewhat bizarre, Yan Jing mused. One night a few days ago, many people in Jingyang Town suddenly disappeared. Everyone thought it was the doing of demons and reported directly to the government office. But the next day, most of the missing people returned. According to them, they were blown away by a demonic wind and woke up in the jungle. As for whether that demonic wind was a demon, and what happened to those people in the end, I don't know. How is that different? After listening to Yan Jing's explanation, Zhao Huai couldn't help but mutter. What's not the same? Where did you hear other news? Yan Jing asked directly, and his sources were indeed extensive and unparalleled, even if sometimes inaccurate. He didn't believe anyone could get news faster than him. Zhao Huai replied, your version is indeed different from what I heard. My version is that the town was ravaged by demons, and many people died. Who told you that? Yan Jing furrowed his brows and said straightforwardly. The people who came back were all normal. Nobody died. A sect disciple told me. Did the disciple really say that? Zhao Huai recounted the conversation with the girl in the green skirt to Yan Jing. A sect disciple in a blue long skirt told you that demons killed many people in Jingyang Town? Yan Jing stroked his chin, pondering. Why would they say that? Is it possible that all the people who returned are dead, and all are transformed by demons? Zhao Huai revealed his thoughts. Yan Jing pursed his lips, that possibility is quite small, demons have never done such a thing. Their main goal is to eat humans, and the purpose of infiltrating and disguising themselves is also to eat humans. Your reasoning is completely meaningless. What's more, there are no flaws in the returned people, and they've been living in peace. Then he thought about it and comforted, Jianzhou is still safe for now. Since sect disciples have come down the mountain, there should be no need to worry. Zhao Huai pondered, is it possible for a large number of demons to invade a town? Yan Jing couldn't help but smile, denying, there are basically not so many demons now. Forces led by the Immortal Sect have vigorously eliminated many of them, and demons are no longer rampant. Even the notorious demon lair of 100 years ago, Blackwind Cave, was rumored to have been destroyed by a mighty of a sect. Blackwind Cave? Zhao Huai heard a new term and found it quite intriguing. Yes, it's an old demon lair with all kinds of powerful demons and evil spirits. They've devoured countless people, but in the end, it was all flattened with a sword. Just as Yan Jing and Zhao Huai were talking. Outside the door, a flustered servant ran to the entrance of Jishur Pharmacy, shouting loudly. Dr. Yan! Dr. Yan! Please save my young master. What happened? Yan Jing looked up and saw that this servant was clearly a member of some family. My young master fought with his father and suddenly fainted. No matter how we call to him, he won't wake up. Pinching his acupuncture points is useless, his face is bloodless, and it's as if he's been hexed, the servant said mournfully. Which family are you from, and who is your young master? The servant was too anxious and hadn't mentioned his name or family background. Yan Jing didn't blame him and had already gotten used to it. People tend to be like this when they are in a hurry. My master is the prefecture chief of Jianzhou, and his son is Li Yanqing of the Li family. Upon hearing the servant's words, Zhao Huai also couldn't help but be shocked. What's going on? He had just seen Li Yanqing earlier. Wasn't he fine just then? How did this happen so suddenly? So, it's the son of Governor Li. Yan Jing listened and slowly nodded, then asked again, tell me more about the symptoms so I can take some medicine with me. He's unconscious and often talks in his sleep, with painful expressions. It sounds like he's been poisoned with a hallucinogen, Yan Jing concluded, but noticed that Zhao Huai's face was no longer as calm as before, so he asked tentatively. Why, you know this person? His tone was full of curiosity. Yes, he once apprenticed under me. Zhao Huai furrowed his brows, his mind still not understanding how Li Yanqing could have had an accident when he had been fine just a moment ago. Yan Jing could see from Zhao Huai's expression that he seemed to know something, so he said to the servant at the side. Wait here for a moment. Yes. Although the servant was anxious, he had no other choice. Do you know what's wrong with him? Yan Jing pressed Zhao Huai for an answer. Zhao Huai explained, I just found out today that he had demonic qi in him. However, I have suppressed it, and it should be harmless. Could it be that the suppression has failed within this short period of time? Yan Jing smiled from the corner of his mouth and said, suppressing demonic qi is not easy. It seems that you have some abilities that I haven't seen before. Would you like to come with me? He didn't dare to let the servant wait too long after all, people's lives were at stake, and he asked Zhao Huai directly. Zhao Huai nodded. Let's go and have a look. After all, Li Yanqing helped him before, and he couldn't just stand idly by. Of course, on the way, Zhao Huai also habitually threw his gold and bronze coins. Lucky strike. The hexagram's message for the night read, good fortune relies on misfortune, as misfortune hides behind fortune, consider every aspect, all lies within your heart. Hexagram 1, alluring fragrance attracts demonic forces unintentionally while mentors have no intent and people have no destiny. Following this path, you will receive the instruction of misfortune. Seeking guidance, rising demonic winds, numerous calamities. Hexagram 2, demonic wind lingers alone, cutting down anyone in its way. Stand still, and you will receive the indication of misfortune. Seeking guidance, dire misfortune and tribulation. What is this situation? Zhao Huai looked at the result, unable to help but be dumbfounded. Going and not going, both bring misfortune. What the hell? The hexagrams today were a bit strange. Change the result of misfortune. Facing this situation, Zhao Huai had experience and decided to use the special effect of lucky strike first. Misfortune leans on fortune and fortune is hidden in misfortune. Hexagram 3. Hexagram 3, in a greatly misfortunate mansion, demons appear, and the multi-faced demon gazes with divine pupils. In this journey, the guidance you receive is luck. Chasing the clue, a fox demon emerges, bringing trouble in its wake. Seeing the finally changed result to luck in front of him, Zhao Huai let out a slight sigh of relief. It seems that I will encounter that fox demon on this journey. I have to be extra careful. Just as Zhao Huai thought of this, the hexagram result in front of him changed once again. Hexagram 3, in a greatly misfortunate mansion, demons appear, and the multi-faced demon gazes with divine pupils. In this journey, the guidance you receive is misfortune. What does this mean? Why did it turn back into misfortune again? Zhao Huai was puzzled in his heart, and his face showed confusion. Didn't he change the results of misfortune and luck? Could it be that it was of no use? No, Zhao Huai felt that there must be a problem somewhere, so he slowly began to think. He carefully recalled the previous time he escaped the army's disaster. After getting luck, he went to the matchmaking agency, and everything went smoothly. The key was meeting a savior, which turned misfortune into a blessing. Savior. Suddenly, a light bulb went off in Zhao Huai's mind. Could the so-called savior be the key factor in the divination results? By this analogy, each divination result has a decisive factor of misfortune and luck. The more Zhao Huai thought about it, the more it made sense. I think I understand. Whether the result of the copper coin divination is misfortune or luck depends on my actions. Changing the result of misfortune and luck only provides a correct path. If the thoughts in my mind are put into action but are detrimental to me, even if the path is correct, if I take a wrong step or make a wrong move, the result will still turn into misfortune. For example, during the matchmaking agency incident, by sheer coincidence, I found Qing Han's room and resolved the crisis. If I had found another woman, it would have probably turned into a misfortune. So the key factor was her. And now I'm going to the governor's mansion. The path is correct, but perhaps my thoughts are wrong. That's why it turned into misfortune. Obviously, I haven't found the key factor yet. Zhao Huai continued to ponder. Naturally, the key factor must be found in the hexagram, and each hexagram is different, with varying degrees of difficulty. Misfortune and luck depend on each other. Indeed, even if the result is luck, one wrong step or wrong move can turn it into misfortune. What does demons have many faces, looking at divine pupils in this hexagram mean? He must have taken a wrong direction earlier. Instead, the carriage that he and Yan Jing were riding in had already stopped. The servant in the front hurriedly called out. "Gentlemen, we have arrived." Zhao Huai got out of the carriage, and in front of him stood a magnificent mansion. There were 2 stone lions as tall as a person at the entrance, and the vermilion door was very eye-catching. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The governor's mansion was indeed grand and luxurious. "Dr. Yan is here," the servant quickly reported. "Please come in." A steward had already been waiting inside the gate to receive them and led the 2 inside. As Zhao Huai stepped into the main entrance, he felt many pairs of eyes looking at him. The security at the governor's mansion was indeed strict, but it was probably of no use against demons. Li Chong's figure hurriedly came from the courtyard, his already weary face now showing a trace of worry. "Dr. Yan, you're finally here." As he grabbed Yan Jing's hand, he noticed Zhao Huai out of the corner of his eye and asked, "Who is this?" "This is my close friend who has some insights into your son's condition, so he came along." Yan Jing explained with a smile. "Oh, I see." Li Chong nodded. In his heart, he had already regarded Zhao Huai as Yan Jing's colleague, thinking he was a doctor as well. He didn't overthink it. "Let me have a look at your son's condition," Yan Jing said seriously. "All right." Li Chong led the way, walking quickly towards the bedroom without stopping. Before entering the room, Zhao Huai looked up at the eaves and saw a crow on the parasol tree. Its pitch-black eyes were round and glaring. In the room, Li Yanqing, who used to be lively, was now lying quietly on the bed. His face was pale, and his lips had no color, making him look terrifying. Seeing the change in him, Zhao Huai's brow furrowed. He also noticed that the Taoist talisman that had been attached to Li Yanqing's neck, suppressing the demonic qi, had vanished without a trace. No wonder there was a sudden problem. The talisman was gone. It would be strange if there were no problems. Who removed his talisman? Was it him? Or was it the fox demon? As Zhao Huai pondered, Yan Jing had already finished examining the pulse and his face became very serious. "So, what's the situation?" Li Chong was filled with unease. This was his only son. If something happened to him, his lineage would be severed. Yan Jing turned his head and solemnly said, "The young master's body has no problem, but his essence and blood are rapidly disappearing." Li Chong didn't quite understand and asked, "What kind of illness is this? Can it be cured?" Yan Jing frowned while explaining, "Your son is not suffering from a disease, demonic qi has entered his body." "What?" Li Chong was instantly stunned, murmuring, "Demonic qi, where did it come from?" "Dr. Yan, are you saying that my son was harmed by demons?" Li Chong seemed to only just regain his senses. "Yes, and the demonic chi has penetrated very deeply, entering his meridians, even his limbs and body. Is there a way to save him? Li Chong's eyes were filled with hope. Yan Jing shook his head, solemnly saying, "It's very difficult. It would have been easier if it had just entered his body, as we could have used true chi to seal it, then gradually removed it. Now that it has penetrated too deeply, the best method is to eliminate the source of the demonic chi. Governor Li, you'd better report this to your sect first." "I'm sorry, but I am powerless to help." Yan Jing sighed. How could the matter of demons be resolved so easily? Upon hearing this reply, Li Chong's face instantly turned ashen, and his heart chilled by half. Even if he reported this to the sect, it would take ages for them to send someone. By that time, his son would have been long gone. At this moment, the seemingly elegant and strong middle-aged man had tears shimmering in his eyes. How did the talisman on the young master's neck fall off? At this moment, Zhao Huai's voice rang out. "The talisman? Are you talking about this?" Li Chong raised his head slightly and took a crumpled piece of yellow paper from his sleeve. No wonder. Seeing the state of the talisman, Zhao Huai suddenly understood. He had initially thought that there was a problem with the talisman, but now he saw that there was no problem with the talisman. It had simply been ripped off. Yan Jing picked up the crumpled talisman, studied it for a moment, then explained to Li Chong, "This is a demon-suppressing talisman. It has a strong true chi on it and should be used to suppress demonic chi." As he said this, he even glanced at Zhao Huai with an inexplicable look. With things explained so clearly, how could Li Chong not understand what had happened? It was obvious that he had torn off his son's life-saving talisman while they were quarreling. He had directly caused his son's death. "My son. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have hit you, I shouldn't have scolded you." Li Chong could no longer hold back, wiping away tears as he was overcome with grief. He believed it was his own actions that had killed Li Yanqing. Destiny reflecting the demon. Watching the grief-stricken Li Chong, Zhao Huai's heart wasn't feeling well either. If he could save Li Yanqing, he would have taken action long ago. But at the moment, he didn't have a good solution. Just like Yan Jing said, only by finding that demon and killing it can they truly save Li Yanqing. Doesn't the hexagram say that the fox demon will come? Zhao Huai looked at the divination result in his hand, which still read misfortune, furrowing his eyebrows and searching for a solution to break the predicament. "Do you have any ideas?" Yan Jing stood up and whispered in Zhao Huai's ear. Zhao Huai solemnly shook his head. "None? Not none, but it's very tricky. That demon is in the brothel, and if we go there recklessly, it's bound to be dangerous." Zhao Huai didn't need to think to know that Drunken Flower Tavern was a deadly place. He had merely divined the way here and already got 2 misfortunes. The third hexagram, even after using a change of fortune, turned into misfortune in the end. It goes without saying that this operation must be approached with extreme caution. "Have you fought her before?" Yan Jing asked curiously. "Not really a fight, just a clash of our demonic powers. Although I won, her demonic power is at least at the 7th stage of refining chi, and I guess her original form is even stronger." Zhao Huai replied. Getting such an answer, Yan Jing couldn't help but purse his lips helplessly. In his eyes, Zhao Huai was already the strongest person he knew, apart from official sect disciples. If he said it was tricky, it must be difficult. "Governor Li, you should still send someone to the Ascending Immortal sect first. I know you're grieving, but now that the demon is still there, you owe it to your son to explain." Yan Jing tried to persuade Li Chong, who was squatting by the bed with all the bitterness in his heart. The Ascending Immortal sect was the largest sect within 1,000 miles, with tens of thousands of disciples, only they could deal with these demons. "We have no other choice." Li Chong's already exhausted body now lost even more energy, his face filled with numbness. Suddenly, a cold glint appeared from behind everyone at that moment. It turned out to be a servant who served tea, holding a kitchen knife in his hand, with ferocious eyes, pointing it at Li Chong. "You!" Li Chong's eyes widened, his face full of astonishment. In the next instant, Jiao Huai's two fingers stood together, and he forcefully pointed his sword. A stream of true qi shot out. The originally descending kitchen knife froze in midair. Ding! Jiao Huai flicked lightly, a finger carrying the force of 10,000 pounds with the peak ultimate's intention, hit the shining kitchen knife and shattered it. Yan Jing's body stood upright, slapping the servant who flew away, his lightning-like gaze swept through the room as he asked himself. What's going on? Was it an assassin? Jiao Huai walked over to the fallen servant, lifted his eyelids, and drew a conclusion. His eyes are off, he was under control. When did this happen? Yan Jing was shocked. Hallucinogenic perfume. Jiao Huai stood up calmly, his face looking grim. Drugs? Yan Jing asked back, his eyes filled with confusion. There was no smell of any drug powder. It's the fox demon. Jiao Huai's divine insight swept through the vast room, finding no one else hiding. In the end, he looked outside the house, his eyes narrowed, and he said two words. Step back. Hearing this, Yan Jing's expression turned solemn as he pulled Li Chong, who was still in shock, to stand and retreated to a corner. Jiao Huai's big hand clenched and the black ring flickered. A slender azure treasured sword appeared in his hand. Bang! Jiao Huai kicked the door open with one foot. A long saber was immediately swung towards him. In front of him stood a group of guards with long sabers in their hands, drooling, their eyes bulging as if to burst out, looking extremely ferocious and bloodthirsty. I knew it. Jiao Huai shouted lightly, stomped his foot, and the floor immediately shattered. Quickly lifting his leg, he kicked at the chest of the many guards in front of him. Boom! Thud! Thud! One by one, shadows were kicked and sent flying out of the house. Jiao Huai transformed into a white streak of light as he brandished his treasured sword, weaving through the crowd. His gaze swept outside the house, discovering that everyone was engulfed in a strange, sinister qi. The steward and the attendants all stood where they were, their eyes dull and vacant. Seeing this, Jiao Huai furrowed his brows and waved his sleeve. One after another, the yellow talisman inscriptions flew out from his sleeve. Wooden Thunder Talisman, arise! Suddenly, an ocean of talismans appeared before everyone, rushing towards them as the Wooden Thunder Talismans hovered above their heads. Soon, strands of black smoke rose from their mouths. The black smoke converged, taking the form of a fearsome black fox face with a sinister grin. It screeched and charged towards Jiao Huai. Subdue! Jiao Huai's expression remained calm, his sword clearing the path as he pointed it towards the attacking figure. The two sides faced off. Jiao Huai's other hand was not idle, as he quickly bit his finger and used the blood to draw talisman inscriptions in midair. The single-handed inscription drawing displayed a terrifying speed. In no time an enormous Taoist talisman formed, and Jiao Huai pushed it forward with his palm while shouting. Golden Thunder Talisman, execute! Suddenly, the sky was filled with flickering thunderbolts, growing brighter and more intense. Boom! An enormous explosion sounded in the sky, an extreme force annihilating the black smoke-formed fox face. The black smoke was completely wiped out, and the people around collapsed, unconscious. Before Jiao Huai could catch his breath, Yan Jing's voice rang out from inside the house again. Brother Zhao! Come and see! Jiao Huai turned into a blur as he entered the house, only to see Yan Jing pointing at the person in front of him with a surprised expression. Li Yanqing, who was supposed to be lying in bed, had strangely sat up. His body twisted unnaturally, his head swaying non-stop, and his eyes completely white. Jiao Huai's eyes narrowed as he gripped his sword tightly. My son! What happened to you? Upon seeing Li Yanqing's condition, Li Chong's face was full of anguish. He wanted to rush forward and hold his son, but Yan Jing pulled him back. Don't go near him, something is off. Li Yanqing's head twisted in a bizarre manner as a hoarse voice addressed Jiao Huai. So, there's a cultivator here. You must be the one who disrupted the connection between me and my human puppet with your talismans. Indeed. Jiao Huai replied indifferently. Good, very good. You think you're so powerful, huh? More than enough to deal with you. Zhao Huai's expression was serene as he retorted. Ha 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 ha. A terrifying, dry laugh came from Li Yanqing's throat, as if mocking Zhao Huai. Such big talk, just wait. Jiangzhou City will be next. How much longer can your human race remain smug? In the next instant, Zhao Huai's figure disappeared from his original position. When he reappeared, he was holding his sword behind him with one hand while his insanity technique activated within his mind, transforming into a giant bell. Boom! The magnificent bell sound could cleanse one's body and mind while eliminating demonic corruption. As expected, under the infusion of the bell sound, a stream of black smoke left Li Yanqing's body. Li Yanqing lost all strength and once again fell back onto the bed. Zhao Huai quickly sealed Li Yanqing's meridians and placed several Taoist talismans around the bed. After finishing these tasks and letting out a sigh of relief, Zhao Huai was about to speak when a bright orange light suddenly entered his mind. This caught his full attention. He looked closely at it. Demon Viewing Eye, Intermediate Earth Grade, allows the user to sense the presence of demons and see hidden demonic creatures wherever they look. Special effect, See-Through, upon viewing a demon's true form with the Demon Viewing Eye, it locks onto its demonic chi and exposes its weaknesses. Demon Viewing Eye? Looking at the new destiny before him, Zhao Huai felt a slight surprise and delight in his heart. For him right now, this destiny was extremely useful. It could sense the presence of lurking demonic creatures, even if they were disguised as humans, he could quickly locate them. Moreover, it had a special see-through effect. As long as he found the true body of the demon, he could lock onto it, rendering it unable to escape. It was like a tracking compass. The final characteristic of revealing weaknesses was also crucial because dealing with demons would be much easier after their weaknesses were exposed. Merge destiny. Merge. Zhao Huai muttered in his heart. The next moment, the bright orange, demon-seeing eye, destiny light cluster burst into brilliance. It turned into a stream of light, entering Zhao Huai's eyes. He only felt his eyes suddenly become scorching hot, as if a fiery flower bloomed in his eye sockets. At the same time, accompanied by a torrential influx of spiritual qi, Zhao Huai's eyes were faintly glowing. After a while, it subsided. There wasn't much change in Zhao Huai's pupils and the surface of his eyes visible to others. But in his own eyes, it was a completely different scene. His eyes were bright and alert, everything in front of him became dim, even the gorgeous peonies in the vase next to his bed was no exception. He could see wisps of black lines in his vision, clearly leading outside the house. With this destiny, he no longer had to worry about demons lurking around him. That's what Zhao Huai thought with satisfaction. Relying on the demon viewing eye, he could sense the presence of faint demonic qi around him. The source of these demonic qi was all from Li Yanqing, who was lying in bed. At this moment, Li Yanqing was like a furnace producing demonic qi, with a continuous flow of demonic qi overflowing from his body. Zhao Huai guessed that the guards and stewards in the house had been controlled by someone, and the root of it all must be the black qi on Li Yanqing. This black qi could affect people's brains, causing hallucinations and agitation. However, the black qi was now suppressed by the talisman set up by Zhao Huai. Brother Zhao, I'm glad you were here. Yan Jing saw the situation stabilized and breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, young hero. Li Chong bowed his hand to Zhao Huai, although his voice was trembling slightly with fear. He felt his legs were soft. If it hadn't been for Zhao Huai, he might have met his end today. Why did these demons target my son? Li Chong looked at his son lying in bed, sighed, and couldn't help but ask. Zhao Huai's treasured sword hadn't been put away yet and was still planted in the ground. He said indifferently, "Is it possible that the demon's original target was not your son, but you? How did the young hero figure that out?" Li Chong was astonished. At first, I wasn't sure until I heard the demon say the next target is Jiangzhou City, and I finally realized. Zhao Huai had just wondered why the fox demon would place such an important mark on Li Yanqing, who was just a wasteful son. The demonic chi mark was like a brand, difficult to create and consuming a lot of effort. It could allow the demon's spiritual mark to descend upon a person's body. There must be a reason for placing it on Li Yanqing. There was only one explanation right now. The person the fox demon wanted to kill. Or rather, the person it wanted to control was actually Governor Li. She controlled Li Yanqing in order to get closer to the governor's mansion. The target of the servants she had controlled earlier was also Li Chong. It was evident that the fox demon indeed wanted to deal with Li Chong. But why would she target me? Li Chong was puzzled. Yan Jing thought for a moment, and soon came up with an answer. He said solemnly. Because the governor is in control of the entire Jianzhou. If you fall or are controlled by demons, the entire Jianzhou would be finished. Without the government office's support, there would be no one to report to the sect, which would greatly slow down the arrival of the sect disciples here. That's right. Jiao Huai nodded slowly. That was precisely what he was thinking. This demonic creature is really cunning and sinister? After hearing Yan Jing's words, Li Chong's face showed surprise, apparently not expecting the demons to have this move up their sleeve. Jiao Huai walked to the door, looking at the courtyard with a calm expression. The crisis is not over yet, the true body of the fox demon hasn't arrived, and it could still attack. At the same time, he glanced at the hexagram in front of him, which still read misfortune. That is to say, there are still unknown dangers waiting for him. Jiao Huai pondered. What could the phrase demons look at multiple divine pupils mean? Does it refer to looking at the eyes, and whose eyes? The demons? Or his own demon-viewing eye? The divination result remained unchanged, indicating that he had not found the key. He simply started drawing talismans, painting the new ones he had learned at the center of the courtyard. Blackwood Thunder Talisman. Born to guard the residents, it could block demons. Unless faced with a powerful demon at the initiation realm, a single talisman could block their way. In this way, the safety of the people in the house need not be worried about. Boom. Boom. At this moment, the vermilion door of the mansion was suddenly knocked on by someone. The loud knocking made a great commotion, with the sound being very urgent. Jiao Huai came to the door but did not open it. There must be demons in everything. At this point, the sun was about to set, and the daylight was fading in the west. Who would knock on the governor's mansion door? Moreover, the knocking was so urgent and loud, completely lacking any etiquette. Jiao Huai narrowed his eyes, and the demon-seeing eye, destiny opened. A bundle of black smoke threads could be seen leading outside the door. That's right, not just one bundle, roughly counting, there were as many as 7 or 8. Of course, Jiao Huai wouldn't open the door. Not only would he not open it, but he would also draw several more talismans at the door. He drew the 5 elements thunder talisman at the door in advance. He needed to draw them on the door and on the door's sides. Boom. 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 The knocking noises continued without pause. After a long silence in the air. Bang. There was a loud noise and the vermilion door was blown open. Jiao Huai, seeing this, immediately detonated the Taoist talisman on the door. Boom. Huge flames burst out from the entrance, like a monstrous wave choosing its prey, rushing towards the outside. With a sizzle sound, something was scorched and sent flying out of the door. Only when it was calm again did Jiao Huai's demon-seeing eye examine the situation. The surrounding black threads had been broken. A weak, sly-looking man with lifeless eyes lay on the ground, staring blankly. Moreover, it wasn't just him. There were also several other pale-skinned men lying around silently. Jiao Huai looked carefully, realizing that these were corpses, no longer human. Even the bones were gone, leaving only a completely dried-out skin. The shriveled human skin, driven by the demon's power, could barely move. Is this a human puppet? Jiao Huai muttered, now knowing that all these things before him were human puppets refined by the fox demon. At this time, his demon-viewing eye detected an anomaly. Wherever his gaze went, a large amount of black smoke gathered together. Transforming into a person,